314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. The YouTube chat is off and running today at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. How are you feeling today going into a very Royals-y feeling opening day for the Cardinals?
For me, it kind of feels like how it feels outside. Dark, dreary. It's just like
it's perfect weather for it.
Kind of is.
I feel like today's kind of nice out.
Oh, well, you love rain and storms, so that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I was telling you guys, it's odd because, yes, you're coming into the season with no expectations, but to me it feels a lot like what last year was. And I know it felt like the Cardinals were saying, hey, we got the opportunity to compete. We got Sonny Gray. We went out there and brought in a Gibson and a Lynn, but it just never felt like they were in a competitive window. And now they've officially said it, right? Like the payroll is dropped. It's a youth movement, getting these younger guys an opportunity. So, yeah, it just kind of feels like we're going to be going through the motions for the next 6 months with the hope of optimism coming through, which I don't think is a bad thing as a Cardinals fan, because for the longest time, Cardinals fans don't like hearing this, but we have been spoiled. It's just always been winning baseball, and it's always been you start the season, you got 3 Hall of Famers on the roster, and you know what's going to happen. For the first time in a long time, probably since I've been alive, I'm starting the season with a down feeling, but it's also a feeling of, hey, I hope there's optimism. I hope there's light at the end of this tunnel. There's a rainbow at the end of this, because there's a lot of young players that they're hoping can be a part of the core moving forward. That puts back the excitement into Cardinals fans for next year.
Yeah, I hate this feeling of the optimism, right? I like more of the, hey, we're going into the year where 90 wins, probably winning this. Yeah, well, I don't care. I grew up on it. To me, I have no excitement for this opening day whatsoever. I was telling you guys before the show, this just feels wrong where the Cardinals are at right now. I grew up the spoiled one, knowing, hey, you're probably an 85 to 90 win team. You're probably going to win the division, and I'll grade the Cardinals season by what they do in October. And this year, I don't think they're getting to October. Opening day snuck up on me this year. I've never have said that before in my life. I typically am very excited about the home opener, and this year it has kind of surprised me. I was texting with my dad, and he's like, so you going to the Cardinals game for opening day? And I went, no, not going to lie, I totally forgot that it was kind of this week. It just caught me by surprise, and if I wasn't covering the team for my job, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I would have watched today's game, just because I have no excitement for this team, because what they're wanting from their young guys is to take significant steps forward, which I just don't see happening for this team this year.
That is the difference, at least for me, because opening day is just always it's a thing. You know, today, the excitement.
I still feel that way. I mean, I'm looking out right now at Ballpark Village. We're looking into the middle. It's still packed down here, man. I know people will say this is different. It's not the same feeling. And that's true. What we're talking about is big picture stuff. Man, you can go right now on the secondary market. The tickets are $100+ to get in today.
Yeah.
This opening day will forever be a local holiday here in St. Louis. Kids are going to miss school today, or you're out on spring break and you're going down to the ballpark. This is still a thing here.
Yeah.
But tomorrow and Saturday, that's when things start feeling really different at the ballpark, where you can get in for $20 on the secondary market. That's different than normal.
Today the expectations take a seat back to just enjoying the fact that spring is back and baseball's back. That's what it's always been for me. Watching my dad, my grandma, who was the biggest Cardinals fan, she loved Tony La Russa, who was just on TMA. That was just always hey, you just enjoy the fact that it's here. Tomorrow is when you start going, cool, we're bad, and it's not going to be a fun season.
Yeah, it's okay to have realistic expectations and acknowledge the obvious, which is that this season is going to feel different. And we'll ask Bill DeWitt III about that coming up here in roughly 15 minutes on BK and Ferrario. Let your friends know Bill DeWitt III will be joining us live on 101 ESPN at 11:30. And yes, we'll ask some of the questions that you want to ask, I promise you. But today is about, this is the start of what is better weather. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. She's like, I'm so happy baseball's back. She doesn't care what the team's going to be this year. She's not the biggest sports fan in the world, but she's just glad baseball is back in our lives. It's the backdrop to our summer. So looking forward to all of that as we go along here today. We'll certainly be breaking things down from a bigger picture perspective. He is Alex Ferrario. That is Tanner Hendrickson, and I'm Brandon Kiley. We've got Bradford Bruns back in the studio for us today. We're broadcasting live at Shark Bar at Ballpark Village. We're going to be joined by Bill DeWitt III at 11:30. We've got Joey Vitale joining the show at 12:30. We've got Katie Wu joining the show as well at 1:30. So plenty to get to throughout the day today here on BK and Ferrario. We'll hear from you at 314-399-9646. 888-999-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. The YouTube chat is off and running, the Graveyard Chat, at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Coming up next, a guy that's going to be a little busy today with the red jacket tradition going on. We've got Cardinals Hall of Famer, former Cardinals starting pitcher Matt Morris joining the show here on BK and Ferrario.
Take the fast lane home weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. with Anthony Stalter, Jamie Rivers, and Gary Davis on 101 ESPN. Two former pros and one average Joe. The fast lane is driven by Scrap Mart Metals Recycling.
Score huge savings during Kia Gladness Sale at HW Kia of West County. Get in the game and buy now because you'll get more for your trade with no payments till June. Don't stay stuck on the bench. Get in the game and out of your loan or lease. Big D, the trade man, wants to get you released. Here's a steal K4LX for just $129 per month lease with zero security deposit and only $39.95 due. Or buy it for under $20,000 with any trade. If you're a first-time buyer, been turned down by other dealers, get off the bench and score your 3-point purchase because every new certified and pre-owned unit is available with zero down, zero payments for 90 days, or 0% for 72 months. And $1,000 customer cash. It's Kia Gladness, baby. HWKia.com. On approved credit, not all will qualify. Plus tax, title, license, and $587 title and registration processing fee. 21 or newer trade. Negative equity refinanced in the loan. Rebates and incentives to dealer through KMF. 2083 per thousand. Offers non-combination. Expires 4/4/25. BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Ballpark Village on 101 ESPN.
Our opening day coverage is presented by Rawlings. Visit the all-new Rawlings experience at Westport Plaza today by General Pest Services. Customers love us, bugs hate us. General Pest Services. And by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud's for you. Remember to drink responsibly.
It's opening day here in St. Louis alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Riley. Matt Morris, Cardinals Hall of Famer, two-time All-Star, NL wins leader back in 2001, is joining us now via the Callier and Thompson hotline on BK and Ferrario. Matt Morris was a part of the 2024 Cardinals Hall of Fame class. We are thrilled to have him here today on opening day. Matt, thanks so much for giving us the time today, man. What's it like being back in St. Louis, being a part of the Red Jacket Club now?
Oh man, it's it's funny. It means more to me. It means more to me. I realize. I got some feedback going on. I don't know if you guys got it.
We do not. We'll see if we can get that fixed on our end. Matt, let us know if that is.
Oh God. Hey. Hey. Okay. Much better. Yep. Thank you. Well, it's my first one, so I'll see what it all means. But just being part of that club is beyond special. I always felt I had a great career here, and absolutely loved the Cardinals and the teams I was on, and kind of getting that red jacket all of a sudden makes you feel like you're part of this organization. So it's pretty awesome. There better be. Yeah, who knows? Really, I'm excited. I'm looking out my window of my hotel right now, and just to see the sea of red in Ballpark Village and how excited the fans are. And I'm not around this scene often, and it just kind of evokes emotion and memories, and it's just truly awesome.
Matt, you got to be around this as a player back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you got to see all of the festivities. It is basically a local holiday here in St. Louis. When you were playing, what did opening day here in St. Louis mean to you? What was that like for you as a player?
Well, one, Happy New Year is what we say when there's something really fun and it's beginning again. Happy New Year to opening day. But, when I played, I hoped I didn't pitch. I wanted to pitch, but it's a playoff environment without having the games under your belt. So it was one of the hardest games I've ever pitched, was just popping out there for opening day, and you haven't been in the stadium yet. You don't quite know your timing. You don't got months of practice, and man, it was a lot to control as a guy starting the game. But if I was on the sideline from the dugout, I just enjoyed it like everybody else.
So, Matt, you also played for the Giants and the Pirates in your career. What were those opening days like compared to Busch Stadium opening days?
I don't even remember them. I don't even remember them. I do, but nothing like this. There's nothing. I mean, the fan base here, the people, the Midwest vibe, how great everybody is. They're, traveling from not just obviously St. Louis, they're driving up from Alabama, and how far the Cardinal Nation reaches, and these people are excited, and whether it's their first or their 20th, it's the same excitement, and you never know what you're going to get on that field, and I'm hoping for a good day for the Cardinals.
Matt Morris is our guest here on 101 ESPN. Cardinals Hall of Famer, class of 2024, two-time All-Star, and the NL wins leader back in 2001. Matt, I did want to ask you a little bit about just what it means to be a starting pitcher in today's game versus what it was to be a starting pitcher back in your day. It's different now. You threw at least 190 innings in 5 of your first 7 seasons. Almost nobody throws 190 innings in today's game. For you, from your perspective as somebody that was more of that workhorse type of starter, what is it like to watch the modern game where there are very few of those that remain?
Yeah, I honestly don't know how I feel about it. I don't know what's better for the team or the game, but one of my goals every year was try to get to 200 innings, and that was kind of the protocol and where we all tried to reach. Today is different. The analytics jumped in, and, I was recently in Arizona and saw a spring training game, and the kid went four and a third, and he came out. He did well, standing ovation, and I'm like, whoa. I would be kicking myself if that happened. And granted, it's spring training, and he's not deep into his pitch count, but it's just a different game. It really is, and I guess it's the way baseball is played now. I prided myself on going as deep as I can because I'm looking at the bullpen, one, because there's a bunch of knuckleheads out there that are going to give up my runs, but also we got to save these guys. We got a game tomorrow. It's nonstop. So that constant wear and tear could, everybody pitching every day kind of thing could wear a staff down. But again, I am looking at it from afar, and it's different, totally different. I do feel like come playoff time. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, do you feel like that comes just from Matt, just from the individual, like, players/persons in terms of growing up, or do you think that's a development thing?
I think it's a development thing. I think, it's what's allowed. It's what they're asking for almost. So pitchers, just like when they implemented a pitch clock, players, they adjust to it quickly. So whatever's being asked, that's what you do. Of course, people want to go deep in the game. Pitchers want to go deep, but that's not what they're asked to do, and their job is different nowadays.
Matt Morris is our guest here on 101 ESPN. Cardinals Hall of Famer, class of 2024. We appreciate him hopping on what is going to be a really special, unique day for you, Matt. It's going to be awesome to be able to see you a part of the pregame festivities. Matt, all the best, man. Take every second of this in. You've earned it. We wish you nothing but the best, and we'll talk with you again soon, my friend.
Enjoy that filet mignon.
You got it. You guys are great. Thanks for having me.
That's Matt. That's Matt Morris, Cardinals Hall of Famer, two-time All-Star, class of 2024. He'll be taking in the pregame festivities today.
It's always fun to do. Do we need a break?
Nope.
No, I was just going to say it's always fun to do this because he was one of my favorite players growing up. And I was telling you guys, he and Woody Williams in the late 90s, early 2000s, man, that was like the Carp and Waino back in the 90s, just hearing people talk about the 1-2 punch that those guys were. And well-deserved Cardinals Hall of Fame honor for him.
Absolutely. For somebody that grew up in our era, he was one of those guys that got things back on track as well at the early stages of the DeWitt ownership here in St. Louis. And we are happy to be joined right now at Shark Bar at Ballpark Village by Bill DeWitt III, the Cardinals team president, gracious enough on what is an extremely busy day, I have to imagine, for you guys here on opening day in St. Louis, joining us on BK and Ferrario. I'm BK, that is Alex Ferrario. Appreciate Bill DeWitt III sitting down with us. Bill, what is today like for you? Is it the same? Is it different? What is today like for you?
Yeah, kind of good morning, guys.
Yeah,
fun to be
well.
on your show. It's sort of a day that rhymes with all the previous ones, but it's always fresh and new. It's like always concerned about the weather, and it looks like we're getting a break. It's not wet. at least for now.
Fingers
But I
crossed,
think
man. I'm not saying anything. People will say that I'm going to BKO it. I don't
Yeah,
need that.
Bill, he is a jinx, so anytime he says something positive, it doesn't go well,
All right,
so we
well,
just keep him out of this.
I'll just stay to the side.
You and I will talk weather, Bill.
good deal. But, it's like a nice temperature, which is great. Even
Yeah.
if we get a little whatever, it doesn't matter. So there's that little nervous excitement about the season and just kind of all the, little obligations for me just leading up to the first pitch. And then when that finally happens, I'm just kind of like, okay, let's enjoy the game. Might walk around a little bit or whatever, but I actually kind of enjoy getting past the opener and then just like really digging in and having fun going to these first few games of the homestand, because it's like this huge surge and then it drops down just a little bit. And then, but you have that rhythm starting again of the season, which, we all love. It's a part of our, soundtrack of the summer is kind of a way of putting it.
Now, Bill, I don't want you to sell anything that you can't tell our listeners, but what are some of those little obligations? Because I would imagine from the end of the previous season up until now, like it's nonstop for you all in terms of planning for opening day and planning to get the season underway.
Yeah, I was referring more to like today itself, where you have stuff like this, radio. I was on KMOX. There's some TV. There's I'm gonna go to the pep rally right after this and give away some free tickets. So just kind of like that, and then of course families in town, right? So you've got juggling some tickets and parking things, but everyone's got their little details. But what brings us all together is this sport and this team and opening day. It's like a holiday in St. Louis, and that's what's really fun to see because everybody's out in force.
I know TMA earlier today had some of the new ballpark foods that are going to be available over at Busch Stadium this year. For fans that are coming through the doors today, what is going to be different about the experience at Busch Stadium this year than what they have experienced in the past?
Yeah, you mentioned a few new concession things, like out in center field in Ford Plaza, there's a cool ice cream stand and we call it a intentional walk, which is a funny pun on, but it's Asian. And then there's like it's called mayo ketchup, which is a local thing.
It's fantastic.
The Cuban paninis and stuff. And so a bunch of new little food things that are for people to check out. But then the other thing about this season that we're trying to be very intentional about is having the games feel a little bit different from a production standpoint. For those of you that go a lot of games, as the season goes on, it starts to feel a little bit like a repeating record. And but we want, so for example, like Friday nights are going to be really geared towards like, getting some young people up to Bud Terrace, having music every night up there, and cheaper beer up there. Nice. That'll, among other things, that'll bring people up there. You got to earn it there. You got to get all the way up to Bud Terrace.
Yeah,
right?
Straight to your heart.
And then, which will feel different than a Sunday, which we want to focus on families and the value proposition for young kids and families. And so, just having the season feel a little bit different from week to week in terms of our game day entertainment will be a theme this year as well.
So, Bill, you mentioned a little bit of nerves coming into this season specifically, and I know it's different for everybody in the organization compared to what years past have been. What have those nerves been like for you and your staff?
I think it's just the fact that we're obviously have a lot of young players, and you want to see them continue to develop, right? We know that you never hit on all of your prospects, but the ones that we have here, we feel really good about. So it's more just about, like in the spring, are they healthy? Are they kind of coming out of it with a little bit of momentum? It seems like most of the guys are. So, I just feel like it's, as you guys follow it closely, we're sort of in a transition period, but we also still feel like this team has a shot. So, it'll be fun to watch and to see how these young guys develop. And if they do, I think we'll be in great shape because then we can add to those pieces as we sort of come back out of this zone that we're in.
We're talking to Bill DeWitt III here on BK and Ferrario. Bill, you mentioned it is a younger team than it has been at times in the past. You guys only added one player for your major league roster in the offseason. For you and your staff, how would you evaluate whether or not this season is a success? What does that look like for you guys whenever we do get to the end of the year? What's the barometer?
Well, look, we always try to make the playoffs, and, our goal is to win the World Series, and there's no reason why we shouldn't have that same goal this year with this group. Having said that, if you fall short of that, what you want to see is progress and building towards something that feels a little bit more sustainable than we've had the last couple of years. And so that means, continued development of the young players, continued development of the young pitchers in particular, where, you feel like, be a major leaguer, you've got to be able to throw innings in this league and, develop as you're at this level. And committing to that from an organizational standpoint will ensure the fact that we won't give up on somebody too soon, for example, or whatever. And then when those pieces all start to come together, you can add to them, and then I think that's when the momentum starts to create that sustainable success like we've seen in the past.
Bill, I'm sure it's something that you and your staff don't like talking about, but when you had to have those discussions of payroll maybe taking a step back this year, what were those conversations like?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that we have some categories that have gone down in revenue, and we always try to push payroll to as far as we can in terms of the limitations that we're living under. And so we are even doing that this year, believe it or not. We did have to cut payroll. The TV revenue is what, attendance you kind of figured is always going to be a little bit volatile. But the TV revenue was like this steady stream, growing 5% every year. And that took a big step back. And so that was really kind of the main reason why we had to readjust. We think that going forward that we'll figure out a way to grow local media back to where it was. For example, this year, from a fan standpoint, it's actually, I think, a better media environment because there's a direct-to-consumer product. A lot of people were blacked out with these dumb restrictions and things. People who've cut the cord now have an option. And we have some over-the-air games now. There'll be 10 games over the air or more. And so, trying to extend that reach and that feeling that it's really accessible for people to watch Cardinals baseball. And then I think we build it back from there in terms of the local media. And it will get back to where we were. It's just going to take a little while.
You mentioned the direct-to-consumer model. Do you guys have an initial impression on how you're doing there relative to expectations? What do those numbers look like for you guys so far, if you don't mind me asking?
Don't even have our numbers yet. Sure. Because we've just started this promotion of, getting people to sign up. And, of course, Blues are on a tear.
Yeah.
So
perfect litmus test, right?
If you sign up right now, you get the end of the Blues season, too, just, FYI. But I think we'll probably know about, a few weeks in what that early adoption looks like. I'm really excited for those markets that are kind of in our outer territory. Obviously, probably locally, maybe there were quite a few people that maybe cut the cord and didn't, and now they'll have an option. But in the outer markets, there were these random weird blackout areas, and those are now solved if you're willing to pay, $19.99 a month. So happy about that, and happy that we now have options for everybody.
I don't know about you, Alex, but for us, it allowed us to cut the cord.
Yeah.
We were just using the traditional cable TV for stuff like the
sports,
Blues and the Cardinals, and now I can get ESPN Plus, which is great for certain games, and then for this, I can just do the Amazon Prime stuff where I've now got FanDuel Sports Midwest available at any time.
Yeah, I mean, sports still drives a lot of the behavior for fans and on TV and all that. So for a while, it's going to be this hybrid model of we're still on linear cable. For those who haven't cut the cord like me, I still got my bundle. I like the cooking show at 4 a.m.
My wife still likes the home renovation show. It never goes away.
Yeah, and then for those who've cut, obviously, we now have the direct product.
Yeah.
But the other question, business side, that I wanted to ask you about is the ticket sales. For today, seems like you guys are doing great. We've got a great crowd already out here at Ballpark Village. What do your ticket sales look like compared to what you were previously projecting in the offseason?
Yeah, I would say we're sort of looking pretty good relative to budget, which, as you know, is down from previous. But one of the things we've really tried to do ticketing-wise is clean up the secondary market. And what I mean by that is we used to do a lot of broker tickets. We would sell tickets to brokers, and they would seed the various secondary market platforms out there, like well, we all know of a bunch of them, whether it's StubHub or SeatGeek or whatever. And because you got to fish where the fish are, right? We knew people were going to those platforms in some cases and not directly to our Cardinals.com, which are where we'd prefer them to come. But and as a result of that, we sort of are in this mode of a bit of a race to the bottom when the team didn't perform well on the secondary market. That's what was happening. This year, we've been much more judicious about that, and we've said, all right, we need to make sure that season ticket holders, when they're going, they don't want to go to every game. Maybe they're going to flip some games. that there should still be value there in the secondary, whether it's face value, little less or whatever. They're fine with that. We've worked really hard on that piece, so I'm hoping that's a positive for our season holders this year, or even people that have bought a game and can't come. So that's one aspect of ticketing, and then the other is just trying to create more value for people on a game-by-game basis, whether it's the team itself or, like I said, mixing up the game day experience, trying to make our promotional schedule hit different demographics, and pick your time, pick your spots. Come to Cardinals games. It's going to be a great time this year.
Bill, one more big baseball question from me, if you don't mind. John Mozeliak was on earlier with our morning show today, TMA, and he was talking about, the long-term view of baseball right now and the perks of maybe a salary floor and a salary ceiling. And I am curious, from an ownership group, do you see pros and cons in that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that whenever you're talking about a floor and a cap, it starts to raise major trigger warnings for the players and the union and stuff. But I think what is something that ownerships and the commissioner is trying to do is kind of think about it as a holistic system, right? The other leagues have, generally speaking, gotten into somewhat of a labor equilibrium, I would call it, where you're tweaking around the edges every time the CBA comes up. Baseball's got this system that is, I would say, creaky from age and a little bit duct tape and suspenders over time without like a reset, And I think I'm optimistic that if we do get to sort of a reset conversation with the Players Association, it's one that really can benefit everybody by cleaning it up, making it simpler, making it even easier for fans to understand, so that the ultimate goal of having, the huge markets and then the bottom markets compress and get a little closer to where we are, which is kind of in the middle of the economic system. And I think that's just good for the sport. So without getting into like specifics of what that system would look like, I'm a proponent of a system reset that accomplishes that goal, again, for the benefit of everybody in it, including the players.
So I wanted to ask you about that fan perspective on it, because I'm sure you've heard this. We certainly hear it on our text line and whatnot. People can grow frustrated with spending. And there's been a couple of stories that have come out recently on the Twins and then one on Pittsburgh recently as well on spending and what the finances look like on the ownership side of things. Would it potentially help for the ownership side for fans to see more of what the realities are of the economics for baseball right now for mid-market teams? Do you think that is something that could actually maybe help your messaging on that side of things?
I think
if it was a little bit more open.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think there's a debate about like how far you go, just because it starts to get super complicated.
Sure.
But I would just simplify it to say that for the most part, and I'm generalizing, teams spend up to their abilities in terms of revenue. And generally speaking, the industry is sort of at a break even on a cash flow. They may lose some or whatever. And then they're hoping to play the appreciation game over time, which we've been very fortunate as owners that asset prices have risen over the years. But generally speaking, the industry has operated in that fashion over time. And now some teams do it a little different, whatever. But I think if you're a fan, if you take that perspective, some of what you see out there with spending starts to make some sense.
Out of curiosity, when you look, you said earlier, you believe that this team can get back somewhat closer to where you were spending-wise on a payroll. When you think about timelines on that, and I know all of this is tied to revenues for you guys, whether that includes gambling being legalized here, your TV side of things going back up, what do you view as the outlook on that side of things? Do you think it's going to be just getting closer to what it was? Will it, with inflation, continue to go up? How do you view the longer-term outlook on the payroll side of things?
I think it's a function of how the team plays and how our young players play, because that's ultimately what will drive sort of a more aggressive approach to either the free agent or the trade market. If, God forbid, we sort of stumble and regress, you'd be dumb to, again, go out and, sign 10 free agents, because you're just sort of chasing your tail.
Yeah.
If we do see that progress, I think that's what gives you that confidence that, when you add fuel to the fire the fans come back, media comes back, and all this stuff starts to have like a positive flywheel effect.
How important is this first month in your estimation? And the reason why I'm asking is because over the last couple of years, you've seen it as well as anybody, 10-24, 15-24 over the last couple of years, and it almost feels as though some of the fan base can tune out at that point, become apathetic. Even last year when you played better down the stretch. For you guys looking at what this first month is, did that drive any decisions with the roster? Like, how important is it to get off to a better start this time?
I think it's important if you just say, all right, we're going to win 85 games, which would be pretty cool. And would you rather have the majority of the winning occur in the first month or the back? I'd probably say the first month.
First month rather than the last.
To your point, but this is our 30th season. I think that gives you some sense of patience and perspective that it's a long season. Things can turn around. I mean, let's just look at our favorite hockey team this year. I mean, who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
Anything can happen if you sort of follow your team and there's an ability to kind of, without, if you're horrible, that's one thing. But I think both franchises are kind of in a similar spot, and we're banking on our young players to do well, and you hope to catch fire and actually make a run while you're getting to that sustainable level. And shoot, maybe the Blues are already, acting on that. And I'd love for the Cardinals to follow suit.
Yeah, you're already a hockey guy, Bill, so that probably makes it even more exciting for you because you're looking at it and saying, cool, we'll try and do this upcoming season.
Is that a fair comparison in your mind? Like,
yeah.
What we've seen this year from the Blues, we've seen their young guys take that next step, and that has pushed them into this playoff mix. Is that what the Cardinals are hoping to accomplish in 2025?
Sure.
Something similar.
Yeah, let's not count our chickens yet. But, I think, look, we would love for this team to make a race of it and be a contender in the NL Central. And they're certainly capable of it if you project out, reasonably positive projections for this group. And the Central is winnable, let's be honest. So from that standpoint, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm also realistic. And, this isn't, the 2004 Cardinals, but I think that the future looks bright. And that's something that it could manifest earlier than we think. And that's why we're all going to tune in and see it play out.
Bill, final question. We'll get you out of here on this. You're speaking to a lot of Cardinals fans right now. If you could send them a message about what to expect in 2025, what you're hopeful about in 2025, what you hope they latch on to with this team going into this season, what would that message be?
I think just, let's keep the faith. And whether it's this year or next year or beyond, we're committed to getting this thing headed in the right direction, and that there's a lot to be excited about with Major League Baseball. Some of these rules changes, the pace of the game, the young stars in the game, and we're committed to downtown in St. Louis. So let's all turn this thing around together.
He's Bill DeWitt III, Cardinals team president. We sincerely appreciate him hopping on with us today on what is obviously an incredibly busy day for the organization. Bill, thank you so much for the time. We'll talk with you again soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks guys.
You got it. That's Bill DeWitt III here on 101 ESPN. If you guys have any questions, we'll get to questions and answers coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Hey, it's BK. You can join me and 101 ESPN on Saturday at Genesis of St. Charles for an afternoon filled with fun and excitement. This Saturday from 1 to 3 o'clock, bring the whole family by. We'll have face painting events. A balloon artist will be there. We'll have food trucks. A special appearance also by Louie and the Blue Crew. Plus, I will have a chance for you to win a pair of tickets to an upcoming Blues home game. That's all this Saturday from 1 to 3 o'clock at Genesis of St. Charles. It's located at 5601 Veterans Memorial Parkway. I will see you guys there Saturday from 1 to 3. You can get all the details right now at 101ESPN.com.
Company.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Starting 9 set for opening day. Good morning. I'm Bradford Bruns with the Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. This afternoon at 3:15, the 2025 season gets underway for Ollie Marmol's Cardinals. His lineup against visiting Minnesota consisting of Lars Nootbaar at the top, followed by Wilson Contreras, Donovan Arenado, Burleson Herrera, Walker, Scott II, and Wynn. Again, Scott II, your center fielder, slotted in as the second to last batter today, but John Mozeliak bullish on number 11's chances right out of the gate.
You know, when you look at where we thought our club was going to look like maybe 2 months ago to now seeing someone like a Victor Scott get center field, you know, I think the athleticism, speed, and really the ability to, hit the ball all over the field is something that is a great skill.
That full interview from TMA available soon on 101ESPN.com. Tonight on the hockey side, the Blues visiting Nashville. That is a 7 p.m. puck drop right here on 101 ESPN. This update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet plus Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Ballpark Village on 101 ESPN.
Our opening day coverage is presented by Rawlings. Visit the all-new Rawlings experience at Westport Plaza today by General Pest Services. Customers love us, bugs hate us. General Pest Services. And by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud's for you. Remember to drink responsibly.
You've got questions, we may have the answers. Maybe. It's BK and Ferrario's Questions and Answers on 101 ESPN.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers. I would say it's a mixed review on the interview that we just did with Bill DeWitt III. Some enjoyed it, many did not, and that's fair. In fact, a lot of the time, this is the time of the year where people are mad or upset about the team, understandably so. And so no matter what the questions are, the answers aren't going to be what you're looking for. And that leads to just people being frustrated. Again, I understand. I don't blame anybody for that. But we did get this from the 217. Why is it you guys sit and smash Bill DeWitt and Mo every day about spending money, and when he joins the show, you curl up into a ball and pretend that you support everything he says and does? That's not the case, but it's not worth our time or his for me to continue to reiterate what my perspective is on things. This is our opportunity to give him a platform to give his perspective on things. And then if we had an hour and a half with Bill DeWitt III, and hopefully someday we can, I would be more than happy to go back and forth with him on some of this stuff. But it's simply not worth your time, my time, or his time to do that right now. The questions that we asked today, the biggest things that I wanted to get to were revenue-wise, where they're at right now, how that will impact what the future payrolls are going to be, how this year is different. I wanted to ask him how he defines success for the 2025 season. Guys, we asked all those questions, and I think those are pretty big questions to be asked of Bill DeWitt III. So if you want my perspective on the interview, that is it. I accomplished what I wanted to with it. If that fell flat for you, totally fair, reasonable, understandable, but that's what I was trying to get out of it. And I do appreciate Bill DeWitt III coming down. A lot of owners or ownership groups do not talk with the audience, the fans at all. They'll maybe be available once a year. That is one thing that I will give credit to Bill DeWitt III for, is he does make himself available. And again, I'm not telling you got to give him extra credit for that, but from our perspective, doing what we do, it's nice that that's the case.
Yeah, I'm not sure what people expect. I think they expect us to turn this into a bash session when we get the owner or the president of baseball operations to sit down with us. And if you want to hear from them, it doesn't benefit us to sit there and berate that individual, because we want them to come back on more. Nobody lofted softballs at them. We talked about opening day, which is the whole purpose that he is here with us, because it is Cardinals opening day. And then beyond that, we asked every single question that Cardinals fans are questioning about this team, because we didn't deliver it in an angry delivery. If that's what they're upset about, then you're not going to even hear from them. It pisses me off, Brandon.
I know, buddy.
You're typically the Tone Ranger, and now it gets me upset.
I know, but the criticism is part of what comes with the job, and that's totally fair. If you liked it,
Yeah,
Great.
314 weak.
You're weak, 314. You're
Totally
weak.
fair as well. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service X line for questions and answers. If you guys have any question, get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 314, guys, I need a pick for my parlay. Give me one guy on the Cardinals that will hit a bomb today on opening day.
What?
Arenado.
I can see it.
What do you mean, like what? It's the one dude
He's
that has the
terrible now.
most pressure on him coming into the season.
I'm going Wilson Contreras. I know he's probably got the worst odds, like the shortest odds for the Cardinals, but he would be the one that I would pick.
Left field, it's going Nolan Arenado. You watched him.
Well, he doesn't hit him right.
Give me your Nolan Gorman, who's not even playing today.
Oh, he's not going to. No, he won't get in that bad. I would go with Contreras. To go differently, I could see a Nootbaar home run. How about we lead this thing off with a bang? What do you think of that, huh?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Sure.
Why not?
From the 314, are there any possible all-stars on the Cardinals? Well, you'll definitely have one. Every team is required to, unfortunately. But
Helsley.
Guys that are most likely to make the all-star team this upcoming season, I would say Mason Wayne has a chance. Typically, there's a lag on fan voting from when they first kind of make their name to getting into the All-Star game. Wynn would be one of those guys that I would throw into the mix. Wilson Contreras is another. Now that he's probably going to be eligible at first base, I could see that. Avon Herrera is another one. I know it sounds strange right now because you're not even sure that he's going to be the long-term answer at catcher because of his defense, but if he puts up big offensive numbers from that position, he's going to stand out relative to his peers. So those would be a few that I would throw out there.
Yeah, I think Helsley's one. Maybe Gray. If Gray has a really good year and timing lines up, he can be an all-star candidate. Offensively, I think Contreras has a huge year. Like I'm going to say some wild things about him in the 12 o'clock hour. So I can see him being an all-star. Outside of that, I think it's too hard for a win because the shortstop position is so stacked. Same with any of the outfielders for the Cardinals. If Nootbaar stays healthy and has a great year, there's too many great outfielders. So I think it's probably your three best candidates are Contreras, Gray, Helsley. That would be my guess.
Yeah, mine would probably be Contreras, Helsley, Gray. I don't think Herrera gets into that, and then I wonder if Nolan Arenado, if he has a bounce-back season, gets there.
That
He's got great defense.
Sure. That's a good one. All right, from the 314. Guys, the Cardinals are scheduled to play 31 games between now and April 30th. If you had to predict today, what will their record be on the morning of May 1st? Again, through 31 games, what will their record be?
11-20.
Oh, good Lord. Really?
I mean, you're surprised by that. I'm not
I'm not telling
optimistic
you
about
you're
this
wrong,
team.
but
At least he didn't say 0-31.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think they're going to be 10 games below 500.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. It's entirely
I don't
possible.
trust their pitching.
Yeah, I don't trust their offense. I think their pitching gives them a chance. I would say 13-18. Does that equal 31? I think it does. Yeah, I'd say 13-18. I think they'll be right around 5 games below 500.
15-16. I think they'll be right around 500, slightly below. I think they're going to teeter on, is this a team worth believing in? No, this is a team that's definitely not worth believing in. I think it'll be kind of similar to what it was at the beginning of last year's Blues season. Not this year, but last year's Blues season, where there were differing perspectives on the team. I remember I talked about them midway through, I think, November or so. And I was like, man, I don't like watching this Blues team. I know the record says that they're fine. I do not enjoy anything about watching this team. And I got dismantled by our afternoon show. They basically said, what more could you ask for? They're better than you expected them to be. I was like, yeah, I just don't like watching them. And I think this Cardinals season is ripe for something similar, where it may be the opposite. It may be you enjoy watching the style of play, but the results aren't there. It could be you don't like watching the style of play, but the results are a little better than expected. I think this is going to be an eye of the beholder type of campaign for the 2025 St. Louis Cardinals. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up at 12:30, Joey Vitale is going to join the show. We've got Katie Wu, Cardinals insider, joining us at 1:30. She was just able to catch up with John Mozeliak along with the rest of the assembled media in the Cardinals dugout ahead of opening day. I do want to relay one of the quotes from John Mozeliak. This is courtesy of John Denton on Twitter. Mo was asked about this being his last opening day, right? He said the following: I don't have any intentions of giving a speech today. If so, you know what my message would be? When they boo me, I can say, I'm leaving. You got your wish. Celebrate this moment. Yell at me, but I think about it. If you're on the other side, I would be appreciative if I didn't want the guy here.
Nailed that PR right there. Chef's kiss.
Honestly, I feel bad for the guy. Like, I know people are very angry with him, and like we've taken our shots at him over these last couple of years. The guy has dedicated 30 years of his life to this organization, and T-Bone mentioned it, had one losing season, and unfortunately for him, he does have bosses that he has to answer to.
And I would also say this, Mo is the perfect explanation as to why Theo Epstein operates the way that he does.
Yeah.
Theo has a, I am out in 10 years rule. I'm out. Because if I stay longer than that, everything's going to turn. My message gets stale with the fans. People no longer view me as the guy that's building. Now I have to be the guy that built and dismantled what I have then built. I think if you're a president of baseball operations or somebody that is the front man for an organization and you care about your public image, that's probably the right way to operate. After 10 years, dude, think about when things got stale for Mo with this fan base. It's around 2018 or so, 2019. And that's 12 years into his tenure. And since then, it's been a lot of frustration among this fan base, right or wrong. You can disagree or love everything that Mo has done here with the St. Louis Cardinals, but I do think there's something to the way that Theo Epstein operates, and I think Mo is the perfect example of what happens when you stay, in some people's minds, in many people's minds, honestly, a little bit too long in that position that is so forward-facing, and you have to constantly be the one that is out in front, speaking for the successes or a lot of times the failures of what your organization has done. So, yeah, when you hear a quote like that, I think it speaks to he knows.
Yeah.
He knows.
Yeah.
I think we could have handled it better,
For sure. But also,
there was a little frustration that was coming out.
It's very Tony. I would expect BK, if he's running baseball ops, to give that answer.
We just got a little criticism on the text line about an interview that we just did with Bill DeWitt III, and Alex was furious.
Yeah,
that was one segment in one day, hearing from probably a few hundred people.
Now do it for 30 years directed towards your family.
I'm not excusing either of you.
Yeah.
You know? Bad PR from both of you. Shame, shame, shame.
Totally fair. I can't imagine what that job is like, and I would never want to take it.
Yeah, and it's not just him. It's his family that get it too. That's right. And I mean, look, like, again, this is home, and now home hates you. Like, think of that for a minute. You've built your life here, and now home hates you.
All right. Since we've now carried water for Bill DeWitt III and John Zaylock.
You know what? We're a bunch of camels around this place.
In 15 minutes, we're going to get into T-Bone's 3 bold predictions for the 2025 season. But next, are we going to see the Cardinals get back to more of an old school style of baseball? Sure sounds like the manager would like to see that. We'll let you hear what he had to say next year on 101 ESPN.
WXOS HD1 East St. Louis 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm.
People.
Start your day with the morning after on 101 ESPN. Get in the know first on everything St. Louis sports with Tim McKernan, Doug Vaughn, and Martin Kilcoy. Listen to TMA weekday mornings from 7 to 11 a.m. on 101 ESPN. The morning after is presented by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Ballpark Village on 101 ESPN.
Our opening day coverage is presented by Rawlings. Visit the all-new Rawlings experience at Westport Plaza today by General Pest Services. Customers love us, bugs hate us. General Pest Services. And by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud's for you. Remember to drink responsibly.
I think the manager has taken exception to the notion that he's not an old school type of manager. So much so that, hey, he's publicly stated as much. So that, I get called this like new school guy. I'm a numbers guy. I don't know if people know my background, but that's not necessarily the case. Well, earlier today, there was a piece that was released over on the St. Louis Post-Dispatch website by Derek Gould, and I think it's well worth your time. But he had a quote in here about the style of baseball that he wants to see the Cardinals play in 2025 that I think serves two real masters. One, I think it plays to this fan base for sure. And two, I think it could set the tone for how they're going to operate in 2025. Let me read this for you, Alex. Quote, I want the guys to be mentally and physically exhausted when this season is over from dialing it in every pitch in a way that they have never done before. He continues, I want an aggressive, relentless attitude towards every single pitch. That is where you find an edge, end quote. Alex, this is the same team that over the last few years has operated, and I think it's justifiable because they had a lot of veterans on the roster. They've tried to find rest at every turn, especially for guys like Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt. So much so that it became, honestly, kind of a running joke among the fans of, got to get the day off for a guy, right? Last year, you even saw that with Mason Wynn. Now, we eventually learned that was due to the back issue that he was dealing with. But at the time, I was like, you really got to get Brandon Crawford opportunities out there? What are we doing? When I read that quote, to me, it says they're not doing that this year. And then I see that backed up by their actions of not having a backup shortstop on the roster on opening day. I do wonder, hey, are we going to see them really like, this is our 9 dudes? They're going to go out there and play, and we want to play this relentless style. They're going to be, according to them, aggressive on the bases. If they follow that, and if that is truly the way they're going to operate this year, I do think that can play to this fan base if they have any kind of success.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I don't know, I don't think you should change the style of coach you are, and even if you're saying that that's who you were in your background, like the Cardinals have done it differently these past couple of years than what he's talking about right here, and I don't feel like you should manage a team to favor a fan base, but this is the way that they should be going about it. I mentioned this with, I forget who we had on a couple of days ago, but you've got multiple players who are 25 or younger right now on this roster. Let those guys go. Like, these are the players right now that are supposed to be getting those opportunities. The only way to find out if you can be an everyday major leaguer is to make them an everyday major leaguer. So that's why if Victor Scott's here, put him in center field every single day. Don't have a backup shortstop because Mason Wynn doesn't really need those days off unless he's got back issues. The only guys that we should be talking about that probably could get days off are Nolan Arenado and I guess if you wanted to say Wilson Contreras. But both are playing positions that they either don't want to take days off or they can handle the workload.
And to be honest with Contreras, I would say, sorry, man, you're playing 162 this year if you're up to it because he can play DH.
And Arenado never wants days off. So, they have to force him to take those. So, there's not a position I look at and say, I get them needing to get rest. No. Walker, Nootbaar, Scott, Donovan, Wynn, Burleson, you're in the lineup every single day.
Yeah, I can see where they really start to push these guys this year. Or in theory they should, but this comes down to, again, what could be the issue they have this year with all their guys is, hey, they need to set a lineup and keep that lineup, right? Mm-hmm. Not do the rotating door of, okay, now Gorman's got to get in because somebody's going to have to be the odd man out if you're going to go with just straight, here's our lineup. Because to your guys' point, I was looking at this today. They've only got 4 guys, on the roster that are over the age of 30. 2 of them are pitchers. Helsley just turned 30. But they've only got 2 position players. It's Contreras and it's Arenado. And to your point on Contreras, dude, he should be able to play 162. Yeah. And first off, that was the whole point of moving him to first base.
And you got DH.
So he could play more games. Exactly. So this should be a year in which they try to do that, and they really try to push some of these young guys because the schedule's favorable for them, especially now. Nowadays, you get basically every Thursday off in the baseball season. So there's no need for these young guys to be playing, 5 games, get a day off, then on top of the off day. They need to keep the young guys in there and see if they can push through this grind.
I'm going to be curious to see how they handle it. And the style of play, I think, is also part of this, right? Like, it's not just seeing the young guys play every day. It's also when they are out there, are they pushing it on the base paths? Do we see Victor Scott get super aggressive on the bases this year? It's something we really didn't see a year ago. I thought we would, but A, he didn't get on base very often, and B, when he did, he was pretty hesitant. We've heard all offseason and all spring training Mason Wynn talk about, I want to be a 25 stolen base guy. That's a goal of mine, is to get on base and steal a bunch of them. Okay. let's see it. Lars Nootbaar, this is a guy that gets hurt all the time. Are you going to be aggressive on the bases, or is it going to be more of a first to third situation with him, which is fine. He's a good athlete, and it's something that can help this team win. We've seen Brendan Donovan be that style of player in his past as well. This team could be, Ivan Herrera, quietly a pretty good base stealer. Like, when you look down at his minor league numbers, or last year I think he had 5 at the big league level and very limited opportunities. Jordan Walker was a good base stealer down in the minor leagues as well. He is a surprisingly good athlete for his size. You've got quite a few. Burleson even last year. I don't remember what his exact stolen base number was, but I think he had like 7, 10, something like that.
What? No way. Right?
He was in double digits, was he?
I don't think it was. It might have been 7 for Burleson, if I'm not
Burley
mistaken.
had 7. He had 9. He almost did have
last year.
Wow.
I think this team is like sneaky athletic compared to what you'd expect. The one really bad base runner they have is Nolan Arenado. But beyond that, they've got a lot of guys that could add. This could be a team that is built on doubles, triples, and manufacturing slugging percentage by stolen bases. We talked the other day about their lack of home run power. And if you look at stylistically what kind of baseball plays to this fan base, that's what I would define as Cardinals baseball, at least offensively. So they have to have success with it. That's the prerequisite. You got to win. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter the style of play that you're doing while you're losing. But that could help endear them to this fan base.
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, I don't feel like you should change the way that you are as a manager to make a fan base like it a little bit more. But I think when you have the personnel, you can switch it to more of a fan base identity, right? Like the biggest thing Jim Montgomery used to talk about with the Blues when he stepped in was like, we've got to play Blues hockey, right? We've got to play blue collar. And for the last 3 years, we were saying it, but they weren't doing it. I do think sometimes it works. If you've got the right players that can play to that identity, it benefits you as a team, and it benefits the organization because fans are willing to invest a little bit more.
Cardinals back in action today for the first time this year. It is opening day here in St. Louis, and it's raining outside, so you got to love it.
How's that feel?
That's a BKO right there if I've ever seen one.
You've carried the water for Bill DeWitt and John Mozeliak, and then you made water come out of the sky. This is unbelievable.
Their lineup for today is what it was against the Memphis Redbirds, the Battle of the Birds. We have Lars Nootbaar batting leadoff and playing in left. Wilson Contreras is batting second, playing first. Your 3-hole hitter, T-Bone loves it. Brendan Donovan playing second base today. Cleanup is Nolan Arenado. Batting fifth is Alec Burleson as your DH. Ivan Herrera is batting sixth behind the plate. Jordan Walker starting in right. They got their answer, Alex. They were wondering. We don't know who our answer is going to be in right field this year. Well, it's going to be Jordan Walker.
TBD, all right? Don't BKO that one. Jeez, man.
He's batting sixth.
Tightness.
Victor Scott is batting eighth in center field, and then Mason Wynn is your 9-hole hitter as your
BKO just late additioned Michael Ciani to right field before his first pitch. Way to go, man.
No, that's not happening. That is your lineup. I do think that is your... Regardless of how you feel about the names that I just mentioned there, those are the names that are available for the manager to put into a lineup in one order or another. I think if you gave me those 9 names and said, make the best lineup construction you can with these names, I think that's the way that I probably would have put it. So I've got no qualms with it.
I'd flip Burley and Donovan.
I would too. I don't know where I'd put the tough part is like Donovan's profile. I don't know where you put him. Because he's more on base, and I don't like that.
You'd love to do like a 1, but
I like Burley as a 3 because he's got more contact and more power, in my opinion.
You also want contact batting fifth. So no matter where you put it, it's tough.
Herrera bat fifth.
I would. In an ideal world, Herrera looks great this year, and Herrera ends up batting second. Contreras bats fourth, and you bump Arenado down to batting sixth or lower in your lineup. But they were never doing that on opening day, so given what the constraints are for this lineup, I think they did a pretty decent job with it. Joey Vitale is going to join us coming up in about 15 minutes. You guys can get involved in the show at 314-399-9646. The YouTube chat is off and running today, and it is loaded with action. YouTube.com/101ESPN STL. Coming up next, you can yell at T-Bone for his 3 bold predictions for the 2025 Cardinals season here on BK and Ferrario.
It's time for another moment in Blues history.
On this day back in 2014, Ryan Miller would stop 27 of 28 Minnesota Wild shots. The Blues would take down Minnesota to win their 50th game of the season. TJ Oshie a hat trick, scoring an even strength goal and a shorthanded goal in the first period. Jaden Schwartz and Brendan Morrow both scoring for St. Louis also.
This date in Blues history was powered by Classic Air Care, making people comfortable since 1926. For all your HVAC needs, ClassicAirCare.com. BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Ballpark Village on 101 ESPN.
Our opening day coverage is presented by Rawlings. Visit the all-new Rawlings experience at Westport Plaza today by General Pest Services. Customers love us, bugs hate us. General Pest Services. And by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud's for you. Remember to drink responsibly.
All right, with Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. We're broadcasting live at Shark Bar at Ballpark Village today for opening day here in St. Louis. It's a beautiful time to be alive. Cardinals fans are excited. We've got honestly a packed house today at Ballpark Village. I wasn't sure what the response was going to be this year. You just never know, right? Like, the team is going in obviously a very different direction than what it has been in the past. And so you look at ticket sales and you're wondering, like, are they going to sell this thing out? Is it going to be a packed house? Yeah, it is. It's St. Louis. It's opening day. Baseball, crazed town. Like, people are still into today. The real test is going to be Saturday and Sunday and week number 3 when things start going in potentially a different direction.
Real quick, because we asked Bill this and I didn't have time to follow up with you on it. Would you rather have a successful first month and be bad in the last month of the season?
Yes.
I think I would rather be better in the last month of the season.
So I think it's twofold. One, if you're better early on, it allows you the hope of what the season can be instead of just killing all of your dreams right off of the bat. Having a full 6-month season where you have no belief that your team's in it is brutal, dude. And we've done that each of the past 2 seasons. The second thing is there could be clear explanations as to why you tank down the stretch, especially for a team like this. They might just sell off pieces at the deadline. Like Sonny Gray may be elsewhere. Ryan Helsley could be elsewhere. You end up with a rotation that's a bunch of young guys. And, yeah, maybe they get their teeth kicked in down the stretch, but at least you got them the opportunities. And that's similar to, like, Mason Wynn a couple of years ago where he had that month to show what he was capable of. He learned a bunch, changed things in the offseason, came back, and boom, last year hit the ground running. So I think there's obvious explanations as to how that could happen. At least if you're good early on, it gives you the hope.
I don't know, man. I'll tell you, I feel like the Blues season got more exciting because they were bad early on, and we were like, this isn't a good team. And then when it just turned on, man, like, I don't know. It's just something different about, like, at the end of the season when you're playing really good compared to at the start, and then you fall off at the end.
Yeah, I would rather be good in the first month and then maybe fall off in the second month. But, hey, you guys want some bold predictions for the 2025 season?
Oh, baby.
It's time.
I have to
it's
opening
time.
day tradition.
It is time for a T-Bone 3 where I'm going to say some wild stuff about these St. Louis Cardinals. Bradford, hit my open.
T-Bone. T-Bone.
Sounds so good.
T-Bone. 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 Love that T-Bone.
All right, guys, 3 bold predictions for the 2025 Cardinals. Real quick, an honorable mention. I almost threw this one in here, but I know how much Ali loves Pedro Pajes. I think Ivan Herrera, if he plays every day, would break the doubles record hit by a primary Cardinals catcher with 45.
Okay.
Yachty had that record with 44 in his career, but because I'm a little concerned he's not going to get the playing time, I'm going to hold off, keep that in my honorable mentions. Number 3, we're going to start out negative and then get to the fun stuff after this. Number 3, Mason Wynn is the next Cardinals player to take a step back and will be 10% below league average at minimum, and Jordan Walker will be out of the starting 9 2 months in to the 2025 season.
You just put 2 predictions into one T-Bone 3.
Too young. I mean, Walker and Wynn are like tied at the hip together. Yeah, I think
BK
it counts.
hates that one.
Yeah.
His hero, his future Hall of Famer, having a step
Jimmy
backwards.
Rollins.
Oh, he's going to be the best.
The Mason win was interesting because I think it's entirely possible. People won't like hearing it, but I think it's very possible that Mason Wynn is a true 9-hole hitter this year. And I still think that's an incredibly valuable player. That's something that I think there should be some caution on how we view Mason Wynn. I think it's possible he ends up 15% above league average. And we look back at the season and we're like, damn, that guy might be a future consistent all-star for the Cardinals. I also think it's possible he's Jeremy Pena, who's a really nice starting everyday player for the Houston Astros, but he's like their 6th best hitter. And he's in the lineup every day, and you just never have to worry about it. Plays quality defense at short and is a roughly league average hitter. There's nothing wrong with having those guys, but I do think that's in Mason Wynn's range of outcomes. All right, number 2 for you.
I disagree with the Jordan Walker one. There's no possible way he's out of the lineup after 2 months.
You give this team too much credit.
Who else is playing out there?
I mean, you can put Donovan in left, Newt shifts to right, Gorman's now at
so
second
you need
base.
Gorman in the lineup who can't who couldn't crack the opening day lineup for Jordan Walker, who's younger and supposed to be the future.
Yes.
All right, number 2.
No way.
Number 2. Guys, Victor Scott II stays with the Cardinals all season long and steals 40-plus bases to be the first Cardinal to do that since Delino Shields did it in 1997. And by the way, he will be just the 4th Cardinal in the team's history, 23 or younger, to reach 40-plus stolen bases, joining a club of Vince Coleman, Red Murray in 1908, Ray Langford in 1991, and Cozy Dolan in 1914.
Cozy.
Oh, Cozy.
I talk about him all the time with
He's
my
the guy
buddies.
that Koozies came from.
I love this one, and I hope it comes true. This is one of the things that I will be rooting hardest for in 2025. I've said it all along. I don't know that I would not have made the decision to bring Victor Scott to the big league club for opening day. That being said, now that he's here, I can't wait to watch him. And I hope he steals 40-plus bases. It'd be one of the best storylines for the 2025 Cardinals.
That would be really exciting. I think you're probably talking like 15, 20, but man, if we can get 40 and you put yourself in Vince Coleman and Ray Langford conversation, I'm on board with that.
T-Bone, number 1, the boldest prediction that you have for the 2025 St. Louis Cardinals is?
Number 1, Wilson Contreras hits 35 Ding-Dong Johnson, setting a new career high, but he drives in fewer than 100, becoming just the 4th Cardinal since 2000. Matt Carpenter, Howard Pujols, Jim Edmonds all hit 35-plus home runs, but didn't drive in 100 RBIs.
Matt Carpenter hit 37 that year?
Yeah, 37. I think he drove in 88, if I remember correctly.
My God, that's
He
hard
was
to do.
leadoff, wasn't he? Or did they move him
he
to
was
the
leadoff for most of the year.
He was leadoff.
And the reason I think it'll be less than 100 is because I just don't know who's getting on base. And guys, just a little peek behind the curtain. When I first was making number 1, I was like, Contreras, 300, 400, 500 season, and then I was like, well, he's not doing that. Let's relax.
I'm not too much.
The 300, I think, would be the hardest part for him.
Yeah.
I think he could get on base, especially if he shows that kind of slugging percentage and he doesn't have protection behind him. I could see that. The average is going to be really tough.
I think he scores 100 RBI. I really do. I think the guys that are going to be on base are, yes, the leadoff, but I think it's the triple leadoff option that you got right now with Wynn and Scott. If these guys are going to be as good as we think they are, I think he's going to have at least 2 or 3 guys on base.
That's something that I want to ask Katie Wu about later on today. She was on her podcast saying if you look at the Cardinals lineup as like 7 through 2, and I know that's a weird way to do it, but eventually when you get into the game,
how most teams do.
It's about how you flip it over, and eventually it just becomes that constant cycle. It does make a lot of sense because you have that speed at the bottom of your order and then the on-base percentage, and then boom, you get to your contact/power guys. So Wilson Contreras, 35-plus homers, less than 100 RBIs. That is T-Bone's number 1 bold prediction for the 2025 season. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Joey Vitale, our Blues analyst. He's going to join us here on BK and Ferrario ahead of tonight's game against the Nashville Predators. He joins us next on 101 ESPN.
Tune in this Friday from 11 to 2 as BK and Ferrario broadcast live from the E&B Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center. E&B Granite, Bernie Federko's only choice for 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Gray gets the nod versus Minnesota. I'm Bradford Bruns with your Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. In under 3 hours downtown, Sonny Gray will take the ball for the Cardinals in their season opener versus Minnesota. His counterpart, Pablo Lopez, who stands to face Lars Nootbaar, Wilson Contreras, Brendan Donovan, and Nolan Arenado. Burleson, Herrera, Walker, Scott II, and Wynn round out Ollie Marmol's lineup. As for Arenado, batting cleanup, year 5 in St. Louis begins after a winter of speculation. John Mozeliak addressed that this morning on TMA.
Expectations are high for him, and if we can get him, almost a little bit of a regression to his mean where he's at, look, we could have a good year offensively. And right now, his mindset's great. He understands where we are, and I think from a clubhouse standpoint, that's good news for the Cardinals.
Pucks, the Blues shooting for victory number 8 in a row tonight. STL Nashville puck drop happening at 7 on 101 ESPN. The Sports Center update has been brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Ballpark Village on 101 ESPN.
Our opening day coverage is presented by Rawlings. Visit the all-new Rawlings experience at Westport Plaza today by General Pest Services. Customers love us, bugs hate us. General Pest Services. And by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud's for you. Remember to drink responsibly.
right now to be joined by our friend, Blues analyst for 101 ESPN. He's Joey Vitale, joining us as he does each and every Thursday. Joe, appreciate the time, man. How you doing today?
Joey!
Today.
Joey! Put your cowboy hat up for the game tonight.
No cowboy hats, boys.
Oh.
No, we're staying distant.
Come on, Joe. We got a lawsuit with the commercial playing right now. Apparently, even the lawyers don't agree with that,
Joey
Joe.
say that he's going to be a professional. They're like, this isn't the Joey that we asked for here.
Sorry. We were going to have to get a legal team on this one. At least put a belt buckle on in that broadcast booth.
Something like that, boys. It sounds like someone got into Grandpa's cough syrup a little bit too soon there on the control tower there.
All right, Joe, let's get into it. Blues back in action. This team's just on an unbelievable run. As you've had your perspective on this, whether that's in the booth or the other night, the game that you were doing with Matrix Midwest, what has this been like for you to watch as an analyst on these games?
Well, it's been really easy because there's not a lot of prep needed because you know this team is just going to keep playing well and they're not going to lose. I don't know how else to say it. I said it after the game. They're playing so well right now where you know exactly what team's going to show up. You know pretty much exactly the way they're going to defend. You know their special teams. You know the goaltending. You know every line is going to be playing the exact same way. And typically when that happens, like we've seen over the last 7, especially, you're gonna have the same result. So I don't know, BK. It's been really fun in the sense that it's been entertaining, and the Blues are winning. But to prepare for these games, it's almost the same thing every single night for me, which is I think how these players want it. They want it to be consistent. They want it to be spread across the table. You know, Jim Montgomery talked about how a couple days ago mentioning that, you know, this win streak and how they're playing. It's a luxury, and it's been really fun to see every part of the game get exposed in a positive way to help shed light on victories. You're not leaning on one thing or 2 things or 3 things. I mean, it's goaltending one night, it's special teams another night, it's the depth of forwards, it's maybe defensemen joining the rush, it's individuals stepping up. Look at Philip Broberg the other day. That's the first 4-point night of his career. So it's just been amazing to watch different ways that this team is finding wins. And, you know, I said it the other day on the plane coming here to Nashville, and I didn't find one guy to disagree with me as I was talking among some hockey ops and of course, some broadcasters. But I said, name a team right now in the National Hockey League that would beat the Blues in a 7-game series right now, a playoff for today. I don't know if there's a team in the National Hockey League that could beat the St. Louis Blues team in a 7-game series. The question now becomes, can they continue to be this consistent when it really counts mid-April, and if they can still get there, which is it's still up in the air, as you know, because you know the teams I was talking to Robert Thomas about this morning, the teams that are behind them and the Blues are trying to create a little bit more of a gap, they're not really letting them right now. I mean, Vancouver slid a little bit, but the Calgary Flames, they're not going anywhere, right? So even with the Blues winning like they have been, they do not control their own destiny at this point, and it's a lot of that's because of the teams that are around them. And so right now for this team, they got to continue just to keep at the pace they're going to give themselves a chance.
Joe, NHL Network said the same thing that you did last night. It was Mike Rupp and Brian Boyle talking about how right now there's not a team that wants to take on the Blues. I know people don't like the comparison to the 2019 team, but you're watching it just like you watched the 2019 team. Do you feel similar vibes in terms of the style that they play?
Yes, the style is similar. The personnel clearly is a little different. I think that 19 team, I think that optically on paper, they looked a little bit more dangerous, you know, because you have more established players. You know, let's look at a David Perron over a Zachary Bolduc, for example. I think on paper, teams would fear David Perron a little bit more right now than Zachary Bolduc. You know, so to me, that's where I think the biggest difference is on paper, they seemed a little bit more dangerous in 19. But aside from that, I can't think of one thing that does not resemble that 19 team. You know, the forwards, every line having an identity, every line staying together. You know, that fourth line of WTF, doesn't it remind you so much of the Sunquist Barbashev Steen line?
Absolutely.
I mean, the way they play, yeah, the consistency from which they do it. They start games, they finish games, they kill penalties. Of course, you have the same goaltender in Jordan Binnington that is, to me, the biggest piece of all this that every team fears the most. And then from a defensive standpoint, I actually like our defensive core a little bit better now than I did in 2019. I mean, that's with Alex Pietrangelo and Jay Bouwmeester, but I just look at that back end with all those games and all that experience. Some champions, some not, which makes me even hungrier. But the one wild card with their experience is they can move. There's not a lot of defense in the league that have played as much as they played that can still skate. Look at the way Cam Fowler made that move the other night, and found a little bit of a lane versus the Canadians. It set up, of course, I believe it was on Matthew Joseph. No, it wasn't Matthew Joseph. Who scored that goal on the side there? It was Sundqvist was at the doorstep there. Oh, maybe it was Matthew Joseph.
Yeah, it was Matthew Joseph.
It was Matthew Joseph. But look at the way Cam Fowler created a little bit of space there. Look at the way Nick Leddy just led the rush, led the charge all night. Even Ryan Suter is joining the rush, sticking in the offense. So they all move very well, and they're very instinctual. So the one edge I'd say this team has over the 19 team is I like our back end a lot better. And this is without Colton Parayko, who we just saw there at the Bridgestone Arena about an hour ago. He is still on the ice. Are they going to use him for the playoffs? Yes. Do I think that they are going to use him a little sooner? I do. I think he is going to be probably close, if not ready, on that final road trip where they go to Winnipeg, Edmonton, Seattle. Now, will the Blues need to use them? I think they hope they don't need to. I think they're hoping that they can continue to run the way they're running and give him the rest he needed. But I do think, based off of how he is progressing, that he is going to be available before playoffs.
Joey Vitale is our guest here on 101 ESPN. Joey, that's a strong statement that you just made, that you think this blue line is potentially better than the one that they had back in 2019. You mentioned the experience. Joe, people viewed the blue line as like the greatest strength that the 2019 Blues had. Can you expand on that a little bit? What is it about this group that you think gives them the edge?
Well, I think the biggest thing, BK, that's different about this group than that group is this group's got a better ability or deeper ability to get up the ice and contribute to the offense. With that 19 team, keep in mind, yes, it's the Alex Pietrangelos that he was almost the odd man out as far as can defend very well, but then also can jump up very well. Aside from that, I mean, listen, you're looking at a back end for the most part, in my mind, that I saw it as, a Jay Bouwmeester. He was a stay home, defend first type of guy. He wasn't jumping up necessarily in the rush. Even a Carl Gunnarsson, he didn't take the chances, right, that Cam Fowler's taken. A Robert Bortuzzo is not jumping up, right, the way Philip Broberg is jumping up. I mean, look at Fowler. Look at Broberg, right? I mean, Colton Parayko when he's healthy. Justin Falk has been leading the charge offensively. I mean, Nick Leddy's even now joining the mix. He's kind of had to step outside his comfort zone. So this idea that this Blues team is attacking the offense, it is fully accurate, but they're attacking almost as like a four-man unit. That weak side defenseman, whether it be Justin Falk, who has been on an absolute rip since they lost Colton Parayko from a point standpoint, Philip Broberg 4 points the other night. I mean, that's what separates this group from that group, is that as good as that group was in 19 at defending and playing that hard kind of snarly style with maybe the one man Alex Pietrangelo that can really threaten you offensively, I think this group right now defends just as well, if not better. But they just have this other asterisk of they have more than one guy, probably 4.5, 5 of them, feel very confident right now outside of Tyler Tucker. Every one of those guys is completely confident and comfortable joining the rush, staying in the offense, and it's really kind of thrown the opponent off a lot because instead of focusing on 3 forwards in their defensive zone, now you got this fourth guy hanging around. You're like, where is this guy coming from? And it's just a defenseman that's joining the rush there and hanging around the offense. So, yeah, maybe it's a little bit of a gutsy comment, but I stand by it because this D group right now under Mike Weber they're hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, I'm with you, Joe. I've said the same thing about how good this D is. Hey, one real quick one, Joe, because I saw Lou Korak tweet this out. Jim Montgomery said that apparently Pavel Buchnevich could be en route of Nashville. I don't expect him to play tonight, but that's a good sign if he's traveling to Nashville to join the team.
Yeah, I think he's close. I know the team hasn't necessarily – I don't think they've come out and said it. Is it still from that after effects of the McCarron hit? I think there's something there for sure. I mean, that was a hard hit he took. McCarron's shoulder went right across his cheek, and sometimes those things take a couple days to really settle in. But the good news is, like I mentioned, for the 2 big injuries that the Blues are facing, one in Colton Parayko, he's very close, and that's just a wonderful sign for Pavel Buchnevich because he is a player that they're going to need down this stretch. But at the same time, this team kind of has that next man up mentality, which I think, you talk about the similarities of 2019. That's something that stood out back then, and it's something that's still the case now. I mean, look at how Zachary Bolduc has just come in and has been so comfortable on that top line. It's a great power play goal once again the other night. He's on a complete tear, best shooting percentage of any rookie in the league. I don't think he's in the Calder discussion, clearly, which is okay because there's a lot of other good players around him. But if he didn't get off to such a slow start under Drew Bannister, he without a question would be in the Calder kind of conversation because he has just been absolutely fabulous. And it's just one more example of, young players stepping up when other guys step out. Tyler Tucker on the back end. You lose Colton Parayko. I think Tyler Tucker's played his best hockey. I think he's even surprising himself by how good he's playing. So next man up mentality is going to be crucial here down the stretch. You don't know what's going to happen. But with Buchnevich out, Bolduc has stepped up very well.
Joey Vitale going to be on the call tonight. Blues versus the Nashville Predators. Joey, if you want to have a terrible day the rest of the day, the Brave Idiot Food Truck's one of my favorite spots out there in Nashville. They've got some hot chicken for you.
That checks out.
Enjoy yourself. We'll talk with you again soon, my friend.
Hey, sounds good, boys. You guys enjoy opening day.
You got it.
See you,
That's
Joey
Vitale. Appreciate his time as always, joining us here on BK and Ferrario. That's a bold statement that he just made there. The 2019
I told you guys that.
Blue line. Well, yeah, but Joey said it.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad.
He's a former athlete.
By the way, the Blues, their top 7 defensemen, and that's Joe's point. Joe's not saying they're a better defensive team. They're a better all-around defensive core that could play offense.
He's adding in the offensive side of things. And when you think about it, like, Gunnarsson, despite, the moment that we all remembered, well, wasn't exactly like an offensive-minded defenseman.
Neither was Jay Bouwmeester, and
Not at that
Bortuzzo
point.
wasn't either, nor Carl Gunnarsson. I mean, I know Boom Boom got the big goal there against Boston, but he had 7 points that season. But the 7 defensemen that played a majority of the games for the Blues in that season had 149 points. The Blues right now have 142, and there's 9 games to go. Now, they have right now 4 guys that have 20 or more points. The Blues that season had 3 guys with 20 or more points. They had more double-digit goal scorers, though. They had Petro Dunn and Colton Parayko 10, 12, and 13. The Blues only have 1 double-digit goal scorer.
Yeah.
But I think when you're talking big picture, I isolated it to the top 4, and that's what we had talked about, where I said I think Parayko is somewhat what Alex Pietrangelo was that season. Jay Bouwmeester, I think Philip Broberg's a younger version of Jay Bouwmeester, and then you're talking about filling the voids of Vince Dunn and Carl Gunnarsson, and you've got Cam Fowler and Falk, Leddy, whomever you want to put also into that top 4.
I think depth is probably, like, if you're looking at the upside, the ceiling for the players, I think they had that better in 2019, although Parayko is making making you believe that this is every bit as good as Petro maybe was in 2019, as crazy as that may sound.
13 goals and 41 points for Petro, and right now Parayko's been injured. 15 goals and 35 points and a better plus-minus.
I don't think it's crazy to suggest that they're at least comparable as players. And
he's
then
an
it comes
alpha
down
like
to
Petro was.
Broberg is very different stylistically, offensive-minded versus Bouwmeester, who was more of the defensive-minded player. But
Broberg's plus 20 and Bouwmeester that season was a -2.
That's actually crazy. That's shocking.
I mean, like, it's weird to say, but, like, that's why I brought it up. Like, I think the Blues are set up better for the future defensively than what that 2019 team was.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind about that. I think the outlook for this team is much better than it was in 2019 because that was, like, toward the end of their run. That was this is the crescendo. Whether they want it or not, it was going to be, like, these next couple of years are our opportunity to win. Whereas right now, this is the beginning of what could be an elongated run for the Blues. It's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. Blues back in action tonight against the Nashville Predators. Alex will have pregame coverage for that one starting at 6 o'clock right here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. Coming up at 1 o'clock, we'll get to our number 1 most important Cardinal for the 2025 season. We've got Katie Wu stopping by at 1:30. But next, time for the Junk Drawer here on 101 ESPN.
Plaza today by General Pest Services. Customers love us, bugs hate us. General Pest Services. And by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud's for you. Remember to drink responsibly.
Let's open it up. The Junk Drawer with BK and Ferrario.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. T-Bone, were you watching TMA earlier today when they were talking about the new food offerings that are going to be at Busch Stadium this year?
I was driving in, and I heard that Jackson was going to town on a dog, so... What? Did I say that wrong?
Yeah, you did, man. You did. I never like it when people refer to eating food as going to town.
On the dog.
On the dog.
Would you rather me call it by its alternate name?
Hot dog?
It starts with a W.
Wiener. You can say it, man. It's fine.
I mean, you can say that on the radio.
Yeah.
The
okay.
Outdoor
Sorry.
Grill is what
actually-
you're talking about. They've got new hot dogs that are going to be available this year. One's topped with brisket,
That sounds
peppers,
good.
and sauerkraut.
I don't know about the
See,
sauerkraut.
get rid of the
Yeah.
sour. I'm not a sauerkraut
Me
guy.
neither. Me neither. Get
Don't
that
put
outta
something on a hot dog that makes it smell
Oh, amen.
foul.
They also have crumble cookies. I heard
Doug ate like 17 of them.
Did he? Are those available
Oh,
right
so
there? Is that
yeah,
what those are?
Yeah.
Pink box
Oh,
right
okay.
there.
Well, Doty probably ate the rest of them. If there's one thing I know about Doty, it's crumble cookies and
They've got more.
Bring them over here.
All right, so we got some crumble.
Jeez. Doty right in front of the... he just threw the crumble cookies on... Doty just threw the crumble cookies on the ground.
I'm not eating that cookie anymore.
Oh, yeah, he's going to lie
Those
to
not
us
watching
now.
on YouTube right now, Doty was trying to be a saint and bring over the crumble cookies from the bar. We're broadcasting live today at the Shark Bar at Ballpark Village. So they were sitting on the bar. He brings them over to our desk, and then he trips on something.
Then he knocked something down, and he tried to go back for it and forgot.
In his head, he forgot. It's like his controller glitched. He forgot that he was holding the crumble cookies, so he just, sets them down.
He just dropped them on the ground, and he's like, "Oh no! They didn't touch the ground. The box just did."
He said, "Jesus, take the wheel on the crumble cookies." And unfortunately for him, gravity is a thing.
I get it, Doty. You probably just thought that they were on the table. I do it all the time. I was just like, "Oh yeah, it's here at the table," and just drop it.
So then he walks the other direction, and then crumble cookies. We've got the Cardinal cookie.
Oh, that one's covered
That's
with
this one.
lint from the ground.
Okay, well that's nice. Crumble cookies now an option at Busch Stadium.
Bad segue.
They will be fresh there. These are very much not. They also have something called the intentional walk, which
Bill DeWitt
the third.
I love puns, and that's great.
It's actually well done.
Yeah, the intentional walk.
It's the new name, formerly known as the Asian Cafe. Are you guys interested in Asian food while eating at the ballpark over the course of the summer?
Absolutely not. I'm not going to eat Chinese food, Asian food, when it's 90-plus degrees outside.
That's kind of where I'm at.
It's just not that type of food. I'll do it at a Blues game.
What about it's a day like today? Low 60s.
Rainy? No.
Kind of rainy. Like if you're at the ballpark, like today, I could get it.
I could
guess
see
I
it
could
today,
understand
but there's
it.
like a month of the season that I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
Like it's April and then
hopefully
maybe
October.
the very end of September.
Yeah.
Maybe in St. Louis.
Otherwise, for me, the one that I'm most excited about this year, they've got mayo ketchup that's going to be in there. You guys know it's one of my favorite spots in St. Louis.
You took me there when the Blues were in the playoffs last. We went there and got lunch.
It's amazing.
I wasn't invited. Shocker.
From what I understand, talking to one of the owners over there, a lot of the players on other teams would have mayo ketchup as what they have delivered in. They would have it catered in for the away team over the course of the season. So it's cool now that fans are also going to have that as an option out there. For me, that would be my number one choice. That will be what I'm eating basically every time that I go to the ballpark from now until the end of time.
As T-Bone poetically stated, I would love to go to town on one of those brisket dogs.
Yeah, yeah, without the sauerkraut.
Yeah, without the sauerkraut. Yeah.
I mean, I may try that.
Minus the kraut, please.
I don't know when the first game is I'm going to, but I might try that.
Did I hear that they're going to have like $5 beer specials somewhere?
Yeah, but didn't he say you have to like work your way up to that level?
Well, yeah. You've been over to the. Oh, okay. It's like the top corner in the right field.
Oh,
you just got to walk up.
I thought he meant like you have to like
work
it's
for
gonna be
it
like
by
a member
going upstairs, or you can wait for. The
I thought it was like
you're gonna be thirsty when you get up there.
I thought it was like a reward system where you have to like spend so much
you
before
like a
you
little,
could get up
little
there.
punch card.
what kind of beer do you think you could get up at the Bud Terrace?
It's $5 Busch Lights before first pitch. They've been doing that for a while. I don't know what the specific.
You think they'd have Budweiser?
Bud Heavy probably is available up there.
I'd like you to take a look to your left there, Brandon. I'll tweet this picture out because there is a large throne here in the Shark Bar that's got the word
Bud Heavy
Budweiser. Why? It's what it's called. It's called Bud Heavy.
That's the name of the brand.
By the way,
it is Budweiser.
Our boss, I sent the picture to our boss Tommy and Mike Ryder, and I said, like, look, it's called Budweiser, and then he called me a dork again. So I'm just going to stop talking to Tommy. Probably doesn't bode well moving forward, but it's fine. That's fine. Just don't call me a dork.
All right, coming up at 1:30, we're going to get our update from today's conversations with John Mozeliak with Katie Woo. She was there in attendance in the dugout as he spoke to the media heading into the 2025 season. So we'll talk to Katie about that in our annual opening day conversation with Katie Woo. But coming up next, we continue our countdown of the 20 most important Cardinals for the 2025 season with number 1 on our list. We'll tell you who that is, and we'll react to our overall list, which was made prior to spring training. Would we change anything with where we're at today? We'll get into that next year on 101 ESPN.
Broadcasting live from Ballpark Village on 101 ESPN.
Our opening day coverage is presented by Rawlings. Visit the all-new Rawlings experience at Westport Plaza
Bradford,
today.
we'll return with the
And by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud's for you. Remember to drink responsibly.
The 20 most important Cardinals for the 2025 season. Number 1.
Swing and a drive. Hammered toward left center. Still going. That ball is gone. Jordan Walker hits a 2-run homer.
Jordan Walker.
With Alex and Team on, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We continue our countdown of the 20 most important Cardinals for the 2025 season with number 1 on our list. We finished this thing off with Jordan Walker. The only player, surprisingly enough, the only player that we all had the same ranking for, and he was number 1 for all 3 of us. He's number 1 for a reason. He was sold as the next superstar of the St. Louis Cardinals. He's the player that John Mozeliak said, haven't had a prospect like this in our system since the one and only Albert Pujols. Now, I think at this point, the Cardinals have learned their lesson. We don't compare anybody to Albert Pujols, Yadier Molina, Jim Edmonds, or any other former Cardinals Hall of Famer. Just not a good idea. It's a lot of pressure, and there's no way to live up to those expectations. That being said, Walker certainly has not lived up to anything approaching those expectations thus far. It's been a rocky start to his career. Year 1, above league average offensively, but had all the defensive issues. Last year, just never got off on the right foot. From day 1, it just never felt right for Jordan Walker. This spring was up and down for him to a degree, and then it ended with him having that knee issue. Alex, I don't know what to expect out of Jordan Walker this year. Genuinely, I have no idea what we can expect out of him for the upcoming season. I'm hopeful. I don't have the same amount of oomph in my belief that he's going to be a star that I once did, though. At this point, I'm just hoping he can be, like I mentioned previously, can he be Eric Hosmer offensively? If he can be that for you, I think you probably sign up for it.
Yeah, I've lost the optimism that he's going to be a superstar for you. The hope is that maybe you could get him to an all-star level, because if you can get him back to there, then at least he's somewhat close to what you expected him to be. I'm done with the whole superstar hype, though, because it's very evident he has been unable to make the adjustments that are necessary to remain competitive at the major league level. There's still a lot of runway for him. By no means am I out on Jordan Walker. It's why I believe he should be in the lineup every single day that he is healthy this season, with or without the struggles that come with it. But yeah, he was number 1 on my list because of that very reason. He's supposed to be a cornerstone, and he needs to be a cornerstone. This is the last year that I'll be having the conversation of, can he be an all-star? Because if it doesn't work this year, then we're to the Dylan Carlson, Lars Nootbaar, Tyler O'Neill level, to where it's like, you know what? I just don't know if it's ever going to happen.
I'm not there. Like I think those were a few different players that are in different categories for me. Like Newt, I would put separate, but from that, but like Carlson, the ghosts of prospects past Gorman, probably in this category as well. Those guys, I would need one more year before I'm there, where I'm just like completely ready to discard Jordan Walker. But I am ready at that point after this season, if it doesn't work for him, to say he's probably not going to be a superstar.
Yeah, well,
that part, to me, I think you can kind of write in pen.
And I feel like, and Nootbaar, probably you're right, it's not in that, but like Carlson was at least labeled as a guy who could be an impact bat that you could rely on for years to come, and the same can be said about Tyler O'Neill. I'm no longer, after this year, going to be saying Jordan Walker is going to be a middle-of-the-order bat.
Fair.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this is his last chance. I still think superstar is in the range of his outcomes. I mean, he's just built different, man. I mean, he's got all the tools. He can hit for power. He hits the ball freaking hard. He's athletic. He should be good defensive. He's got a cannon of an arm if he can figure out the defense. That will make him even above average in right field. So this is the last year for that potential, though. But I agree. I think after this year, if you don't see significant strides, then, yeah, you have to plan moving forward that he's not a piece that is going to be the focal point for you exiting out of this retool, but more of a potential secondary piece, if that at all. If not, he just ends up going down, like you said, like that old prospect path of, you see one good year, and then it just falls off of a cliff and you never see it again.
All right, last thing on this before we get to our conversation on the Blues and what tonight's game means for them. Alex has some thoughts on why this one could get a little ugly, and I'm not talking about the final score. Let's go through our list real quick. We'll go through the rankings from 1 to 20 to discuss where we're at, where we ended up with our list among the 3 of us, the averages at least. Number 1, Jordan Walker. Number 2, and I'll go like by 5s, so that way we can discuss a group of these guys and discuss if there's anything that we would change now. Number 2, Ivan Herrera. Number 3, Nolan Gorman. number 4, Mason Wynn, and number 5, Lars Nootbaar.
Yeah,
Would you
could
change around any of those guys that I just mentioned?
Yeah, you could take number 3 out of that conversation.
Talking about Nolan Gorman.
Yeah, Walker, Herrera, Wynn, those were guys that would still be where they were ranked on that one. Newt as well. I had Newt lower. I can understand him being higher because Contreras was in my top 5.
Sure.
But, yes, Gorman is the one that should not be in that.
I think we're all in agreement on that. All right, number 6 was Ryan Helsley. Number 7, Wilson Contreras. Number 8 was Brendan Donovan. Number 9, Sonny Gray. And number 10 was Nolan Arenado. Would you guys switch up any of those? Helsley, Contreras, Donnie, Gray, or Nolan Arenado?
I don't think so.
No.
I think that's a pretty good spot for those guys, 5 through 10.
I could hear the argument
6 or 10.
Gorman over Arenado, but they've told you with their actions that he is not as impactful as Nolan Arenado is because Arenado's here.
That feels about right to me. All right, 11 through 15. Andre Palante, 11. Michael McGreevy, 12. Number 13 was Quinn Matthews. 14, Alec Burleson. And 15, Eric Fetty. I think I would probably switch Alec Burleson and Nolan Gorman, but not have them all the way up at number 3. But this is the range where I would now have Nolan Gorman, and Burleson to me should be probably in our top 10 somewhere.
I would agree with that. I think maybe I'm off here. McGreevy and Matthews would bump out of these spots for me.
Probably. Matthews
Just
bumps out of this because he's not going to be here till late.
Yeah, and putting McGreevy down in AAA is so you don't have to see Matthews quicker than I think all 3 of us maybe originally thought. So I think those 2 guys would probably drop into the 16 to 20 range.
And that's where this guy that I'm about to mention could probably bump up. Victor Scott II for us was at number 16 going into spring training. We didn't even think that he was going to be part of the opening day roster, and now he's your starting center fielder going into opening day.
He should be the one of the top 10.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. Number 17 on our list was Ryan Fernandez. Number 18 on our list, Thomas Sajaci. 19, Steven Matz. And at number 20 was J.J. Weatherholt. We did not have Matthew Liberatore on our list. That is one that if we went back and redid this list, I would have him probably in that 15-ish range, given the fact that they're trying to find out what they have with him as their starter. I think that's one of the most underrated storylines that I feel like it's not getting talked about at all right now.
I think it's
Matthew Liberatore is a part of your 5-man rotation right now, and the expectation is it's going to last at least a month for the Cardinals.
And I think it's just because people don't trust him. But if I were to redo it, Sajaci would come out of this and Liberatore would go into his spot. Because I don't think Sajaci's going to impact this team at all this year.
Yeah, I don't know how you see Sajaci on this team. They can't even get at bats for Gorman right now.
No
Sajaci's more of a utility guy than Gorman is. So I would agree with that. I think Libby would be probably anywhere between 9 to 13 on my list, looking back on it. That's how high he would jump up because of trying to figure out what his role is going to be for the Cardinals, not just in 2025, but 2025 and beyond.
He definitely would be above all of the pitchers with the exception of Gray and Fetty.
All right, that puts a cap on our 20 most important Cardinals list for the 2025 season. If you guys missed any of those, you can check them out on the podcast page after the show today. 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. They are all presented by
Schaefer Door Company.
101 ESPN app is also sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. It is free to download and super easy to use. Coming up next, Alice is going to tell you why he's a little worried about this game going into tonight. We'll talk about that next year on BK and Ferrario.
Coverage on 101 ESPN.
Our opening day coverage is presented by Rawlings. Visit the all-new Rawlings experience at Westport Plaza today by General Pest Services. Customers love us, bugs hate us. General Pest Services. And by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud's for you. Remember to drink responsibly.
All right, alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. We're calling an audible. Katie Wu joining us now live from Ballpark Village at Shark Bar ahead of Cardinals opening day in 2025. Katie, we appreciate the time. How you doing today?
I am well, guys. It's opening day. Beautiful day for Rich.
Yeah, great.
A banner day, postcard worthy if you will. But no, it's fine.
Katie,
it's fine.
if you don't know, well, you do know about the BKO, but Brandon earlier today, when Bill DeWitt III was here, talked about how beautiful it was outside and how luckily the rain is staying away.
Well, you knew it was coming then,
Yeah.
because I think it started raining. Cardinals had BP scheduled on the field at 12:05, so that's probably right before.
We
and
talked
then it started raining around
11:40.
then.
We
Yep.
finished our conversation at like 11:52.
Yeah, that sounds right. All right, cool, nice.
Feels about right.
Mother Nature killer over here.
Katie, let's talk a little bit big picture first. This is your 4th opening day for the Cardinals, is that right?
My 5th.
5th, okay.
How dare you?
How does this
Seriously?
one feel compared to the other 4 that you've been to?
So I think off the bat, my favorite opening day was 2022 because that was my first full capacity Busch Stadium real life opening day, and it was also beautiful outside, and Albert was back, and all of that good stuff. So that's such a high bar to hold the opening days to. This one, I'm still excited. I still love opening day, and I feel like even if you're a fan of the Rockies, like you should be optimistic or excited on opening day. We have 161 other games to commiserate over. Walking around the ballpark I thought was cool. I went this morning, I was getting a Starbucks, and like the barista was writing go cards on every cup. Like that was cool, right? That was opening day. Baseball's back in St. Louis. But it does feel a little different because we just truly don't know where this is going to go. And the messaging has been mixed all off season, and guess what, you guys? It's still mixed. And I thought Ollie Marmol in his session with writers today was, again, very candid and honest about how difficult this is going to be. It's challenging. He goes, you guys are going to have a ton of questions about winning games and developing players, and if we can do that at the same time, and I'm going to answer every single one because this is confusing and this is difficult. And I think that's maybe what Cardinals fans feel right now. It's a confusing time to be a fan.
Does he have the toughest job in baseball this season?
It's not easy.
4 years it's been tough.
It is not easy, especially this year, because you're essentially saying, hey, Ollie, here are 26 guys. You need to make sure you get 600 at-bats for every single one of them. Win games and keep your job. Have fun.
Yikes.
All of that, by the way, is impossible.
Yeah, one of those 3 doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, at a minimum, one of the 3, and potentially
And one
all
might
3
be
of them.
tied to the other.
Correct.
Sure.
Real fun stuff.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk a little bit about what Ollie had to say then in that conversation you guys had with him. What did he describe as how he's going to do this? Like, what? We haven't been through it yet, so he doesn't honestly know the answer to some of these questions. But as he's trying to explain to you his thought process early on in this year, what's he saying?
It's been challenging, and he's said, like, there's not going to be a cut and dry way he does things. Some days he's going to go with the best 9 to win that ball game. Sometimes there's going to be an opportunity where there's maybe a better option on the bench for a pinch hit situation, but that person is not going to see the opportunity because you need to develop someone else. So, for example, let's think Jordan Walker, because this is something we briefly touched on.
Yep.
If Michael Ciani is a defensive replacement 4th outfielder, most likely out of the outfielders that we know are going to be in the lineup every day, who is Ciani replacing?
Jordan Walker.
Jordan Walker. So how are you going to develop Jordan Walker in late game situations where those are arguably your most pivotal at-bats for if you're taking an at-bat like that? You're essentially saying, hey, Jordan, we don't trust you enough to take that spot because we're trying to win this game. And there are going to be times where Ollie Marmol is going to say, hey, Ciani, sorry, Jordan needs to take this at-bat right here because we have to develop him. And that's going to change almost every day. And that's really frustrating for a fan because for a fan, you want consistency. You want to know what your team is going to do. You want to know what to expect. Are they winning? Are they not? Pick a lane. And the Cardinals can't do that. That's frustrating for Ollie Marmol, who no matter what he does, he's not going to win in any kind of argument, and that's very difficult. And that's frustrating for the players because you don't know what you're going to be asked of every day. This Cardinals plan has so many holes. That's probably going to work, right? Because there's no way it works, so it's probably going to. But it's so difficult, and for the casual fan, the diehard fan, whatever, I think the most frustrating thing is not knowing what the plan is because it's going to continuously be changing based on scenario.
Is there a time, Katie, in the season, like how bad do the Cardinals have to be before they take the winning conversation out of it and just focus on the development? Or does that even happen this year?
I don't if we see a season like 2023, which is a very scary thought.
No, I keep making you bring that up,
I
and
know.
I'm really sorry, Katie.
But even if the Cardinals are hovering around 500, like let's take the human element into this. This is my speculation, but you think John Mozeliak wants to go out like this?
No.
You think that if the Cardinals are 500 in July and in the hunt for a wild card spot, despite not having a roster that makes sense or not really adding to it or augmenting it over the offseason, you think he's going to just stand pat and not do anything at the deadline? I think as long as the Cardinals are somewhat in contention, similar to what we saw in 2024, they're going to keep trying to win ball games. And when you're the St. Louis Cardinals, you should be trying to win ball games. I just don't know how they're going to do that and develop the long list of players that they've already established, especially because they're walking back Nolan Gorman already, and they're walking back Jordan Walker already, and that's just a product of Victor Scott on the flip side of that, forcing his way onto the roster. You should reward a player like that who basically, to quote Ollie Marble, stuck it to everyone this spring. Even Mo said, I'm going to use that one later. Mo said, coming into spring training, if you would have asked me if Victor Scott was going to make the roster, I would have said probably not. And 7 days before we did our final cuts, if you would have asked me if Victor Scott was going to make the roster, I would have said probably not. So, yes, you're rewarding Victor Scott and Matthew Liberatore for showing that they deserve the opportunity, and it comes at the expense of other players that you're promising runway to. You just can't win here.
So Nolan Gorman is the one that, for right now at least, is going to be on the outside looking in. How long do you think that lasts? Like, are we going to see Nolan Gorman this weekend?
Yes, we'll see. Nolan Gorman should get a start this weekend. If he doesn't get a start in one of these 3 games, then I think we have maybe a different misunderstanding of what's going on here.
Okay.
But if Burleson goes out there and tears it up, can you justify taking arguably your best left-handed contact bat out of that lineup every day against righties? Probably not. What
How
about
do they
Newpar?
plan to make that work then?
That's
what is the current messaging on that? Like, okay, so Gorman goes in there. 1 day a week, I would imagine, he's going to get a start at third base in favor of Nolan Arenado because Arenado typically has those off days. Boom, you make that. That's 1 day a week, though.
If Nolan wants that. I don't think Nolan Arenado wants 1 day off a week.
Yeah, you
maybe
think that guy's coming
one
in?
day off a month, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially with the amount of games where in the early portion of the season there are those days off in between. Like, there's plenty of rest for guys that you would say, let's get them out of the line. You don't go on that stretch of consecutive games until what, middle of April?
Middle of April.
Okay, so I was trying to give them an easy out this is at least one opportunity. Cool. How do you make that work then?
It's a great question. And
What do you do?
That's something that Ollie has said. Like, I'm not trying to be an Ollie apologist here, but this is so difficult because no matter what he says, there's going to be a counter argument for, well, you guys said you were doing this.
Sure.
Or if he does do a lineup that, that has Gorman and Walker every day, then it's, well, why is Siani on the roster then? Or it's so complicated and it's so messy, and it goes back to what we said in October needed to happen. The Cardinals pick a lane and stick to it. You know what? There's nothing worse than that inconsistent X where, like, one day they're in on you, one day they're out, and you're just like, oh my gosh, make a decision. Like, that's where the Cardinals are at right now.
That's my dating life in high school.
Yeah, see,
same.
it's difficult, but I can at least, I don't know, resonate with what the Cardinals are experiencing.
I get it.
They can't pick a lane, and what it's done is it's made it really complicated for Ollie to have a starting 9 each day, and then you think about those guys. The whole point of Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker coming in here for their extended runway, if you will, was so they didn't have to worry about producing every day. And if they slumped, that's okay. They're going to be back in the lineup now. That's no longer guaranteed, especially for Nolan Gorman.
I know a lot of fans will point towards Arenado and say, you failed priority number 1.
1, 2, and 3.
Sure.
Yes. So priority number 4, did they mess up on not getting rid of somebody else on their roster to maybe clear that runway in case Nolan Arenado was still there?
I don't know, because I think there's so much talent with these players. And what the last thing you want to do is another, classic Mo trade, according to Twitter.
When has that bot bit them?
Right. And get rid of a player.
They really haven't, though.
They
To be
really
fair,
haven't.
Like,
they really
what
haven't.
we're talking about, they haven't done. What they had done is not give the guys opportunities.
Yes.
That's where Randy Arozarena and Adolis Garcia come in. Or they give them too many opportunities, and that's when you get nothing in return for Dylan Carlson or Tyler O'Neill.
Pick a lane, Cardinals.
Pick a lane.
We are now in the midpoint of, have you seen enough of Gorman? Apparently they think maybe, even though in the offseason the answer was absolutely not, and then a month of spring training changed that, but whatever, I digress. Right now we're kind of in that middle point of you don't know what you have with these guys, and so you kind of want to find out, but you don't want to commit all the way to it.
Because you're still trying to win games.
Was there a pivot? Was there a pivot available to the Cardinals that could have made this easier? If we knew then what we know now, which is Arenado is going to be here and Victor Scott's going to hit his way onto the roster. Do you think there was a pivot?
That's what changed everything. And I don't think the Cardinals were envisioning either of those scenarios. And, I mean, to be clear, Mo has said as such. So,
Sure.
Yes, Nolan not being traded. I mean, I don't think you can fault either side. It's really hard to trade a player with a full no trade clause. We went over this multiple times. He's still here. Didn't really think he was going to be, but he's here. So you play him every day. Victor Scott, and this is not a knock on him. He did everything he was supposed to do and more. Him making the roster and essentially forcing the Cardinals and saying, you are putting me on this roster because I deserve it, has also complicated things for other people. Now, if Nolan Gorman had a better spring, do we see him in the lineup over Burleson? Probably, but how do you say that to Burleson? Hey, you went out there and you had a great spring, you made some changes, you hit well, but we're going to start Gorman who
Also, you were
didn't.
more productive than Gorman last year.
Correct. So what message are you sending to your players in that regard? Where I think it's unfair to Gorman is don't make him the face of this reset period, him and Walker, and then all of a sudden be like, and on the bench you go.
Opening day, 2025.
Opening day.
Yay.
Catch the fever.
So before we get you out of here,
something.
Katie, how does this go right? Like we've just discussed how this can go horribly wrong, and there's a lot of outs for that. If you're playing a game of poker, you got a lot of outs for the Cardinals to not be very good this year. There is an outcome, though, somewhere. Maybe if you simulated the season 100 times, it's 5 of them. But there are those 5 seasons. How does this work? What does that look like?
Yes, let's get back to the opening day optimism train.
Sure.
The players play. They play and they produce. And you're looking at a bounce-back season from Wilson Contreras, who's my way too early pick for NL Comeback Player of the Year. You're looking for Nolan Arenado to look more like 21-22, not 23-24. And most importantly, you're looking at these young players taking the steps in their careers that the Cardinals hope that they can. Because the whole point of this reset season was that Chaim Bloom can come in 2026 and know what to expect out of each young player. Now, some of it is on the organization for putting the players in the right positions to succeed. We just talked about how that might not be the easiest thing to do. But bottom line, if the players go out there and perform, then all of a sudden, even if they're performing at their best and they're a 500 club, at least you know these players at their best are a 500 club, and here's what we need to add coming into next season. That's how they get it right. And maybe a lot of these guys perform like the Cardinals think they do, they think they'll have a good club. So put your faith in the players, I guess.
It does feel like there's going to be a lot of optimism, maybe not on this season, but for the future, on top of these young guys that are getting reps now. People saw Michael McGreevy dominated spring training, Quinn Matthews as well, J.J. Weatherholt, who's starting in Double-A. There's a lot of excitement for Cardinals fans to go beyond this season. It's just you hope that this one at least gives you a little bit more spark with it.
Sure, because at the end of the day, having what the Cardinals are doing with their minor league system, I wrote about it in The Athletic yesterday, a ton of advancements there, and I think they have a really good platform foundation established. But at the end of the day, it's the major league club that draws, and it's the major league club that makes money, and it's the major league club that people care about. And this is a city that obviously cares about their baseball team. I don't know, it's scary out there in Ballpark Village.
Swallowed whole if you walk out there.
I kind of want to go, though. I kind of want to go.
Yeah, that would not be a bad place to watch the game today. You're going to have a very different seat.
I'm going to have a different seat.
You're going to have very different circumstances. Katie will be covering all of these games over on The Athletic. You can follow her along on Twitter as well, at Katie J. Wu. She joins us each and every year on BK and Ferrario for opening day. We used to have Michael Gersh do this as well.
Oh, jeez, come on, man.
We've now got Katie Wu as our opening day guest. We had Bill DeWitt the third, so he was here as well.
Both great hair, by the way. You and Michael Gersh. And different hair, but great hair nonetheless.
No, I was going to make a different joke, but
yeah, we'll go ahead and say goodbye to Katie before she gets herself into any trouble. Katie, appreciate the time. Enjoy the game today. We'll talk with you again next week.
Thanks,
Katie.
So much.
She's Katie Wu. Again, find all of her great work over at The Athletic and on Twitter at Katie J. Wu. Appreciate her time as always. Coming up next, Alex is worried about tonight's game against the Nashville Predators. He'll tell you why next here on 101 ESPN.
From Ballpark Village on 101 ESPN.
Our opening day coverage is presented by Rawlings. Visit the all-new Rawlings experience at Westport Plaza today by General Pest Services. Customers love us, bugs hate us. General Pest Services. And by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud's for you. Remember to drink responsibly.
Hey, our opening day broadcast out here at Ballpark Village. We are broadcasting live, by the way, at Shark Bar at Ballpark Village. Is presented by General Pest Services, by Rawlings, and by Budweiser. We'll be here for just about 15 more minutes. Alex, tonight the Blues are going to be back in action. You'll have pregame coverage starting at 6 o'clock right here on 101 ESPN. You're a little worried about this game. Why?
Because I do not want the Blues to come out of this game injured. They've played them. This will be the third time in 10 days. And if we all remember correctly, the last two have gotten pretty nasty. You had the McCarron hit on Buchnevich that got him injured/ill, whatever they're going to call it. And then the last game, Jonathan Marchessault used his stick as a sword and just started trying to hit everybody. This concerns me to the front of Nashville's got nothing left to play for. They're a group of pissed-off individuals that have not played well and are out to prove people wrong. You gave the record of what they've been other than playing the Blues in this last stretch.
They've been good lately outside of playing against the Blues.
My biggest thing is do not come out of this game injured. And, keep your head up in this game. And we talked about this on the podcast because JR's point is hey, if you're the Blues, skate away from the extracurriculars. And I understand that premise, but I feel like that's when the Blues don't play well. When the other team pushes, the Blues push back, and it wakes a beast. But this is one of those games that, man, you're going to have to be aware where every single individual is on the ice because don't get a blindside hit, don't get a broken finger or a hand. You're going to have to make sure you come out of this healthy.
I also wonder if that's part of why Booch isn't playing tonight. I don't know. But
not,
if they decided, you know what, let's hold him out one more game.
Yeah.
We'll get him back on Saturday. We've got the Colorado game. He can come back for that one. That would make a lot of sense to me for sure. It is a real legitimate fear. I'm not saying that the Nashville Predators are going to go out there and do anything dirty per se, but I do think they're going to play through the whistle instead of until the whistle tonight, and that's a tough place to be in when you're going up against a team that has nothing to lose, literally nothing left to lose for the rest of this season. They're incredibly frustrated, and you've now seen them 3 times in the last, I think it's 9 days now. That's not a good place to be as an organization, especially when these are games that have gotten a little heated. It's a historic rivalry between the two sides as well. Get out of there with 2 points and get out of there with a clean bill of health, and tonight's a good night. It's a pass-fail test for me. That's how most of these are the rest of the way, but certainly this game is chief among them.
Yeah, you still can't stub your toe in this one, which is why I don't look at this as if you don't win, it's not that big of a deal. Sure, but Vancouver won again last night. Calgary and Utah play again tonight. Minnesota does as well. You just can't afford to stub your toe right now. You have to continue to find ways to earn wins until somebody else falters.
The other thing is, your schedule's about to get tougher.
Yeah.
We talked about how the Blues had the weakest strength of schedule remaining. Well, that's because of the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think they have the 13th toughest now for the rest of the way, where the other teams don't.
And after this, after tonight, that should I bet you they're top 10 toughest after this, because you've got Colorado twice, you've got Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Utah the rest of the way. That's 5 of your last 9 games going up against legit playoff opponents. Yeah. So that is why I think today becomes
that's
even
why
that
the
much
other
more
4,
important.
Seattle, Nashville, Detroit, Pittsburgh, become critical games for this Blues
You got to
team.
take care of business.
Yep.
You got to take care of business against the teams that you're supposed to beat. All right. He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Bradford Bruns back in the studio for us as we are broadcasting live at Shark Bar out of Ballpark Village. Our broadcast today is presented by Budweiser. Alex is presented by Budweiser, General Pest Services, and by Rawlings. Budweiser,
you keep
of
doing
course,
that
you
to
can
me,
get
making
yourself-
me think I'm missing something. But you also just keep emphasizing that I was correct, that it's called Budweiser.
Budweiser's best product, in my opinion, is a Bud Heavy. You could also get a Busch Latte, whatever you like out there. It's all available for you at the game today if you're going out to opening day. Coming up next, we're going to hit the rewind, finish things up here on BK and Ferrario.
BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from Ballpark Village on 101 ESPN.
Our opening day coverage is presented by Rawlings. Visit the all-new Rawlings experience at Westport Plaza today by General Pest Services. Customers love us, bugs hate us. General Pest Services. And by Budweiser. Cardinals fans, this Bud's for you. Remember to drink responsibly.
Let's run it back with a daily rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Loom, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
Yep. It might be our. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. It's been a great show today. We had Matt Morris, we had Katie Wu, we had Bill DeWitt III on the show as well. We were also joined on the blue side of things by Joey Vitale. If you missed any of that today, be sure to check it out after the show today on the podcast page that is sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
You can always check it out on YouTube as well, youtube.com/101ESPN STL. That is where more than 200 people have been watching all day long, participating in the graveyard chat after the show. Our producers will go through and splice that thing up so you can see what each and every individual segment was. If you're a Cardinals fan, you can go back just through the Cardinal segments if you want. Super easy process over there. Or you can check it out on the 101 ESPN app, which is free to download and super easy to use, and that is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Alex, let's wrap up today's show by talking about the opening day experience that we're going through this year, because it's different. I mean, you have to acknowledge it. This is the first time since I have been around the St. Louis Cardinals, which began really when I got to college in 2011. It's the first time since then, in about 15 years, I don't know what to expect out of the team. And I don't think it is realistic necessarily to say the expectations are for them to reach the postseason this year. Every year prior, you at least had some hope or belief that that would be the case. I don't know this year.
Yeah, I don't either. And, frankly, today is one of those days that I don't think anybody that's in this building right now or is going to be in Busch Stadium cares. This is one of those days that you just forget about that and you just enjoy the festivities of baseball being back. But I think once the last out is called today, that's when people start to really look at that, because you're right. This is the first time. For me, I felt this way last year, but at least the team still had aspirations to be a World Series contender.
Sure.
And so it gave you I guess if they're in it, they could be competitive at the trade deadline and try and go out there. This is the first time that I am walking into the season looking at this saying, yeah, it's a lost season in the sense of being a playoff team, but it's not a lost season in terms of the growth of the younger players. Bill DeWitt III made the comp to what the Blues are doing right now. You hope that's the case. Maybe not in the playoff race, but at least stay competitive and get some answers on your younger players so that you're walking away from this season talking about Victor Scott, Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, Lars Nootbaar, the same way we're talking about Dylan Holloway, Zach Bolduc, and Jordan Kyrou.
Exactly. You want the young guys that have been here to take that next step, and you want the young guys that are new to the experience, whether that's Quinn Matthews or later this year, Michael McGreevy, Victor Scott. You want them to hit the ground running.
Right.
Or, honestly, like Zach Bolduc, I think, is a really good comparison for what you're kind of hoping for from some of these young guys. Mm-hmm. Dude, Zach Bolduc was in and out of the lineup early in the season. He was a guy that was going up to the press box 1 out of every 3 games or so. And they had a plan. They knew this is going to take some time. We believe this is going to be what's best for his development over the long haul. And we're seeing now the fruits of that labor.
You hope it's Jordan Walker. You hope Jordan Walker can fall into that Zach Bolduc to where at the end of the season we're saying Bolduc could be a top-line winger for you.
Sure. Whether it's Walker, Victor Scott, or Alec Burleson, whoever it is, you just need somebody to fit into that role. I would like the Dylan Holloway, maybe that is Victor Scott, right? A guy that you knew had some talent, but you weren't sure what the upside was. Maybe Victor Scott just comes in, and every day that we watch him, we have the same experience that we did with Holloway this year, where it's like, wait, that guy showed me another skill that might allow him to remain a legit top-line player long-term.
Yeah.
Scott has that kind of ability if everything clicks. So there are reasons for optimism, even though going into the season, this is probably the most pessimism that I can remember following around the St. Louis Cardinals. All right, for today, who's your pick to click? Who's your home run hitter for today? If you had to bet on one player, who would it be?
I'm sticking with the guy I said earlier, and in honor of Anthony Stalter, Nolan Arenado.
I will go Nootbaar. I will go with he's going to hit a home run in that leadoff spot. Maybe not to start the game, but he'll hit a home run today.
I'm on Wilson Contreras. I think this is the start of what is going to be a monster season for him. T-Bone had in his T-Bone 3 today the 3 bold predictions for the 2025 season. Wilson Contreras will hit at least 35 home runs for the Cardinals. I would say I'm willing to go to 30.
Yeah,
I think he gets
number.
30 home runs in this upcoming year and is in contention to be an all-star first baseman in the National League. What is your prediction, Alex, for the Cardinals' record in 2025? We're now to opening day. What is your prediction for the Cardinals going into 2025?
75 and 87.
Okay.
12 games below 500.
I'm going 74 and 88. I think that's what they will end up being
Coward.
this year.
Should have said 100 losses.
I've got them pretty close to
That's in
last
the range
year.
outcomes.
I've got them at 82 and 80 overall,
Wow.
slightly above 500. I think what Katie said is kind of how I feel about this team. I think they'll get some positive answers. I think you'll be conflicted by the end of the season. You'll get some answers that are positive on young players, and I think the Cardinals might do something which some deem to be silly, which is add a little bit at the trade deadline. Nothing
keep
significant,
Helsley?
but potentially keep Helsley as well.
Contract
Give him the
extension.
qualifying offer, stuff like that. So
Here's one. Bold prediction. Who's not on this roster? Who's not in the lineup at the end of the season?
So guys that are in it today that won't be there on August 1st or whatever.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty much your lineup. Who's the guy that could come up and disrupt it? I get Gorman is one.
Gorman, I don't know if he's going to be here.
I don't think
in
he's going to be
time.
here this year. I think that's a next
I don't
year
think there
thing.
is a guy that can come up and disrupt it.
I think the
being
rotation
honest.
is what will change the
Yeah.
most. I think the rotation looks vastly different.
How many faces?
in
How many new
August?
faces are in that rotation?
2. I think
Green-
Quinn Matthews and
Greavy
Michael
Matthews.
McGreevy will be a part of this rotation by the end of the season. I don't think that you will see significant changes on the lineup side of things.
Yeah.
I wonder if Lars Nootbaar is not in that lineup by the end of the season.
Because of injury or because of
injury/trade.
Okay. I don't
don't know if
think
they trade him at the deadline. I think if anybody's losing their spot, it's Walker.
And on opening day for 2025, who do you guys view as the winner of the National League Central? Who do you think wins this godforsaken division?
You want to sing it with me?
No, don't do that.
Oh.
It's
Do it.
opening day.
Do it,
I've got the
T-Bone.
Cubs. You got the Cubs?
Yeah. Hey, Chicago.
Hey, Chicago.
Oh,
Yeah, it's the
what do you
Cubs.
say?
All right, so we're 3 for 3. Congratulations. You
Cubs,
just got a
Pirates,
PKO
Brewers.
on the Chicago
Oh, boy.
Cubs.
It's gonna
For
be like the
Alex
Pirates.
Ferrario and Tanner
Oh,
Hendrickson,
God.
I'm Brandon Kiley. If you guys have missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page after the show today. 101ESPN.com and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find that. All of our content can be found over on YouTube as well at youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. That is also where you can find the Last Minute Blues podcast. You can also find the new Redbird Report. T-Bone and I recorded our first episode this week. We're going to be doing that weekly throughout the Cardinals season. So if you want Cardinals content and you're looking for it, it's an hour straight of exclusively Cardinals conversations, some of which are different than what we talk about here on the radio. If you want that, you can check it out today. 101 ESPN app is where you can go to find it, or on YouTube if you prefer the video version of that. Thanks so much to Shark Bar for having us out here at Ballpark Village today. Shout out to Doty for keeping us on the air. Shout out to Bradford Bruns and Mike Ryder back in the studio who made all of this possible. Our opening day broadcast has been presented by General Pest Services, by Rawlings, and by Budweiser. We will talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Enjoy the opening day festivities. The Fast Lane's got you taken care of from 2 to 6. Alex will be back for pregame coverage for Blues versus the Predators at 6 o'clock. We'll talk to you guys then here on BK and Ferrario.
March Mayhem is on 1 ESPN.
Thank